Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Building a pirate group. The crew is the villain of all worlds. Chapter 41. Super Blue Light Shield. A top-level defensive energy barrier technology from the world of advanced technology. As long as the machine is turned on, a spherical barrier can be formed within a certain range, which can completely resist some normal attacks. It can be used unlimitedly and has 8,000 reputation points. Seeing the introduction of the system, although it is a bit expensive, the price is still within Kuruda's acceptable range. Although it can only resist some normal attacks, in other words, if it is a top-level strongman, such a shield is not enough. But Kuruda originally did not intend to buy an energy shield that can resist such a top-level strongman. As long as it can protect the bull and resist the bombardment of naval warships, that's enough. But just this is worth it. He doesn't want his baby bull to be hurt at all, and even hopes that the bull can give birth to a ship spirit. But since the ship spirit is to be born, it is natural to protect the bull and try not to get hurt at all. As a big villain, can't he even protect his own pirate ship? It's better not to be one. So soon, Kuruda bought such a protective shield directly. After spending 8,000 reputation points, the system also directly sent an instrument similar to a furnace to Kuruda's room, in front of him. Turn on the blue light protective shield. Since it is voice-controlled to control the opening and closing of this instrument, Kuruda only needs to make such a simple voice command. Because under the power of the system, this instrument has remembered Kuruda's voice. If Lucy and others want to use it in the future, they just need to input the voice and let the instrument remember their voice. Soon, a hole was opened on the instrument, and a blue diamond crystal rose from it. As the energy operated, energy was released from this crystal. The protective shield was stretched out immediately. Not long after, it soon came to the outside of the ship. Because the speed of spreading outward was too fast. And such diffusion is silent and invisible. In addition to extremely sensitive senses, there are also some ghost ninja soldiers guarding the navy outside. Kuruda found that they were a little aware of it. Those navy soldiers who were still awake, especially Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain, did not fall asleep because of the night. Instead, they were a little collapsed and leaned against the cage like zombies. But they did not find that there was a blue energy shield that had built the bull and 2 navy warships into it. After using teleportation to come out, Kuruda found that this energy barrier had actually appeared under the sea. Good guy, now not only the sea surface, but also the sea bottom is protected. It can resist most attacks from sea kings. Then Kuruda also used a few small tricks and let the ghost soldiers go up to try. After finding that it was indeed difficult to break the barrier, he smiled and nodded with satisfaction. It's good to have such an effect. This reputation value is not wasted. However, in this way, counting the money spent on buying monsters before and the money spent on the barrier now, there are still 139,000 reputation points left. Excluding the 100,000 reputation points for summoning new partners, there are still 39,000 left. Let's stay here for now. After this naval incident is over, I estimate that I can get another 100,000 reputation points, and then I can decide where to go and find the next partner as I agreed. But as for where to go, let's wait until we defeat the Navy in 3 days. Anyway, there is a way out. Even if we can't defeat it, with the speed of the bull, it is not something that the Navy can catch up with. After all, how can a sail run faster than an electric motor? Then let's do this for now. Now it's time to summon a new partner. Kuruda said after thinking about it, and at the same time, he used teleportation to return to his room again. The system consumes 100,000 points. Remember, this time it is a physical master, and it is best to have a stronger body. After returning to his room, Kuruda said immediately and stated his summoning requirements. Now it's time to summon a new partner. The host has spent 10,000 points. The system will open the door to the other dimension. The villains from other worlds are coming. The familiar space channel appeared in Kuruda's room. At this time, in another world, or space, there is no light here, so it is completely dark. The only thing that can bring a little light is that there are many special colorless flames in this space, burning very fragilely. Suddenly, as a channel was opened, a ray of light shone directly on a ball of flame. This ray of light seemed to have magical power. This ball of flame seemed to come alive under the light, and it became crystal clear like a gem. An even more magical scene happened. This ball of flame actually emitted a voice from inside, the voice of a person speaking, and it was a beautiful and pleasant female voice. Well, what's going on? Am I not dead? Why is it so dark around here? Obviously, this space should be the death space of this world. In other words, all the creatures who died in this world will turn their souls into a small ball of flame and come here, and they will usually be in a dormant state. But now it seems that this ball of flame seems to be awakened by the power of the system. That's right, the power of the system has opened the space channel to the death space of this world. And this ball of soul fire was actually awakened. It was a close call. The villain who consumed 100,000 reputation points of Kuruda was the owner of this soul fire when he was alive. Under the influence of the system, this ball of soul fire also knew a lot. So it was a summon from another world. It's similar to what happened to Baiji and the others. As long as I agree, I can go to that world through this tunnel, and I can also restore my body and experience a new life. But the price is that I have to choose the person who summoned me and whether to become his partner. After learning this information, the soul fire was silent for a moment, as if thinking about the information. He can summon me from another world and revive me. His strength is definitely extraordinary. He even likes me. I think the people over there must be very interesting. Anyway, I'm dead in this world anyway, and I've become a thing of the past. So I'll go to the new world and have a look. It's better than staying in this place all the time. But if that person is not my type or cannot conquer me, then I'd rather be alone in that world. Obviously, this soul fire has made a choice. After all, no one would choose the latter. They would rather continue to sleep in the world of death. If they have the opportunity to live again, they will naturally choose to be reborn. As the soul fire had already agreed, the system began to exert its own power and suck the soul fire into the space channel. At the same time, with the injection of another force, the soul fire slowly dissipated, replaced by a beautiful woman who looked domineering and a little cute. She had short black hair, peach eyes, and white highlights on her bangs. She wore a black tube top and hot pants, showing her slender figure. Her back had a cloak design similar to spider legs, with golden decorations and red translucent elements. The ribs and navel lines were carefully outlined, making her look more charming. I have to say that the clothes were indeed a bit too revealing. But it was indeed very beautiful, whether it was the lines on the face or the body, or the white and very elastic skin. Finally regaining her vision, she looked down and saw her body, stretched out her hands wearing black gloves, stretched out her 5 little fingers, and then stretched out her legs, and saw from beginning to end. Finally, she smiled. What a wonderful adventure. I didn't expect that I could regain consciousness and regain my body in my prime and start a new journey and life. Suddenly, she found that the passage seemed to have reached the end, and it was obvious that she was about to reach another world. She was stunned at first, and then she smiled and said, "A brand new world, here I come, ha ha ha." At the same time, Kuruda, who was still in his bedroom, was still very patiently looking at the space passage in front of him, because he knew that the villains on the other side would probably be confused for a while after seeing the space passage, and then they would have to digest the information provided by the system, and only if they were willing to come, would the summoned characters enter the space passage, otherwise the system would randomly select characters from another world. So for new partners, don't be impatient, be patient. Kuruda knew this, so he was waiting very patiently now. But his patient waiting finally paid off. I saw a beautiful figure suddenly jump out of the space passage. With his calves bent, he jumped onto the floor of his bedroom. Kuruda also looked over, but the new partner left him only a back view, but he was also stunned. The new partner was a woman. This also caused him not to see the face of the new partner, which was a bit embarrassing, but suddenly, Kuruda quickly frowned again. Because he already felt familiar with this friend whom he had not met yet, as if he had seen him somewhere before. But he just couldn't remember it for a while. However, the beautiful woman in front of him had stood up and turned around to look at him, and her curious eyes seemed to be looking at him. But now that Kuruda saw the front image of the beautiful woman in front of him, he took a breath of cold air. Even his eyes were a little dull, he didn't expect that this person would come. "Ariel, I didn't expect that she would come this time," Kuruda said in his heart, saying the name of the beauty in front of him. At the same time, he recalled some memories of his previous life, because the beautiful woman in front of him was actually a character in the anime world in his previous life. From the shameless little Sakura country that loves to eat mushrooms and drink nuclear waste water. However, Ariel is indeed a character in the anime of this shameless little country, and has an important position. At the same time, don't just look at the appearance, the devilish figure, plus the angelic face, is actually very powerful. In her original world, What If I Was Reincarnated as a Spider? Is also a top powerhouse. This is also a different world, with magic and swords. In fact, it is essentially the same as Sid's world, but there are more settings for heroes and demons. But in essence, it is more like a virtual game world. Because people in this world gain power and gain new skills, it's really like playing a game. In short, it is a world with a very special way of gaining power. In that world, there are many races, such as elves, humans, demons, dragons, and various kinds of monsters. And Ariel is the Demon King, and in her world, she is also called the strongest Demon King. But she is generally called the Demon King. She was originally a spider beside the goddess Ariel, the original spider, and the oldest beast in that world. Then she became the current Demon King, the origin of all spider monsters. She merged with the consciousness of the body minister of the Spider Girl, and her soul became corrupted. She possessed the memory of the Spider Girl, so her personality became cheerful, but her independent consciousness was not affected. She worships Ariel. In fact, she is the product of Potamus's human experiment using his own genes. At first, she could only stay in bed because of the toxins in her body. When she was abandoned as a failure, she was taken back by Ariel. She deeply respects the goddess Ariel, so she hates the people who live peacefully in the world created by the goddess's dedication, and has a strong desire to kill the fairies who are the scourge of the world. Her long-cherished wish is to kill all the fairies and rescue the goddess. She is the strongest demon king in history and an invincible existence in the system. Even Shirori, who has become a god, is numerically lower than the demon king. Such a powerful existence naturally has some powerful skills. 7 Deadly Sins. Skill. Gives her powerful abilities or skills in certain areas. Modesty skill. One of the 7 virtues, the modesty skill may make her perform better in social or combat. With powerful ability values, Ariel's attack power far exceeds that of the heroine Spider Girl, and her ability value is about 3 times higher than Spider Girl. Dragon Barrier. As the representative of the strongest magic barrier, this skill can block enemies, especially those opponents who are good at using higher level magic. Ruler skill. Gluttony. This skill allows Ariel to infinitely restore SP value, enhancing her continuous combat capability. In summary, Ariel is a demon king with strong strength and multiple skills. Her abilities range widely, including but not limited to magic attacks, barrier creation, and resource recovery. At the same time, whether in the novel or in the animation, Ariel's physical strength is actually better than magic. Although she can't fly, she can jump back and forth on several mountaintops with amazing jumping ability. And her physical skills are also very powerful. Quick to attack, fierce attack, huge power. Similar to Sid, he is good at using swords compared to magic, and Ariel is also better at using her body for physical combat than magic. Now for this new partner, Kuruda can only think of so much based on his understanding. But what is certain is that if Sid's world is not as good as the pirate world, then the world Ariel comes from does have gods, or has been exposed to cosmic civilization. In other words, Ariel's world is greater than and equal to the pirate world. But if Ariel's own strength is placed in the pirate world, it is estimated that at most it is one of the 4 emperors, or at least an admiral. After all, in that world, Ariel is not a top-level powerhouse. She can only be regarded as a 2nd or 3rd level powerhouse, and the gap is even greater than that in the pirate world. At least in his judgment. We will have to look at the panel later to see the details. At the same time, according to the system requirements, the summoned villain is indeed in line with Ariel, because in the reincarnation of Spider, it is mainly divided into male and female protagonists, but the main focus is still on the female protagonist. Whether it is the story of the female protagonist in the early stage or the story of the male protagonist in the later stage, Ariel is indeed their enemy, and as a demon king, plus the use of power and behavior, it is not an exaggeration to say that she is a big villain. "Are you the one who summoned me here?" Ariel asked with a cute and curious look. It seems that Ariel, who has not yet merged with Spider-Girl and has lost her body consciousness. Seeing her like this, Kuruda immediately made a judgment. Because it is too easy to recognize, after all, Ariel's personality and behavior are completely different before and after Spider-Girl invaded her mental consciousness. In the early stage, she was completely a cold queen, and in the later stage, she was completely a sadist. It is true that I summoned you from another world, that is, your original world, in a special way, but I can understand the situation over there. Let me briefly introduce myself first. Kuruda answered immediately after thinking about it. Soon, Ariel nodded with a smile and said that she did some of her own things. Kuruda was also listening and receiving information while thinking in his heart. It seems that Ariel, who has died, was summoned by me from the death space of that world. From this point of view, unlike Sid, this person has no worries. But in this case, I still have to show my strength and charm to completely conquer Ariel and make her my partner. I have a general understanding of you. I have to say that you are a great and strong person. Kuruda's words are actually sincere. After listening to Ariel's story, I have to admire such a person. After all, it is a person who has worked hard all his life to save a world and finally sacrificed his life. This is Ariel's life. Thank you for the compliment. What about you? Ariel continued with a smile, and she was really curious about this person's self-introduction and story. And when she was telling the story before, she could indeed sense that Kuruda had a strong power and magical power. She immediately judged that this person who summoned her from her original world, and the man who resurrected her first in the death space, was indeed very unusual. My name is Kuruda, I am about the same age as you are now, and I have lived 2 lives. I am almost 50 years old in total, much younger than you. I was framed and died in my original world, but my soul traveled to this world, and I also gained the ability to absorb other people's emotions, exchange items from other worlds, and even resurrect people here. Kuruda made a brief self-introduction, but he couldn't tell Ariel about the system, so he could only say that it was a special ability. I understand, this is why you can summon me. Ariel nodded. Yes, I collected enough emotional energy and summoned you. Kuruda nodded. With this experience and ability, you are really an interesting person. How much do you know about this world? Ariel continued with a smile. I've been here for a few years, and this is what happened. In the following time, Kuruda focused on his past life story and everything that happened after he came here. However, he replaced the system with his previous statement, and also focused on the situation in the pirate world, some basic knowledge, as well as the distribution of forces, strength, etc. At the same time, he talked about Alan, Luke, Lucy, and even Sid, as well as the Bull, and the name of their current pirate group, etc. Basically, in addition to the items he recently got from the system, he urged them all, and even included the navy led by Garp who would face them in 3 days. But taking this opportunity, Kuruda directly checked Ariel's panel. Name: Ariel. Age: infinite, at least 2000 years old. Gender: female. Introduction: a top powerhouse from the world of reincarnation as a spider, cold and domineering in the early stage, a middle school patient in the later stage, righteous, and has a spirit of sacrifice. Ability: physical skills, magic. Current strength: top general. Weapon: none. Bounty amount: none. Bounty title: none. It was because of this panel that Kuruda realized that Ariel was only at the top of the general level. In other words, she was between the emperor level and the general level. This made him a little disappointed. He thought Ariel had at least the strength of the emperor. Host: this is the strength she should have now. There is still a big gap between her and the top strongman in that world. The system popped up at this time. Come, Kuruda said in his heart. But even so, isn't she stronger than me and Sid? This strength is already not good enough, how can you let me recover her? Kuruda rolled his eyes in his heart, and at the same time, he made up his mind that after the Navy's matter was over, both himself and the 2 sisters Sid and Alan would be stronger. A wooden barrel can hold more water only if all the planks are the same height. Kuruda still understands this principle. But at the same time, with Kuruda's narration, Ariel also thoroughly understood some information about the pirate world. But to be honest, after listening to it, she couldn't tell which one was stronger between her own world and the current world. After all, she originally had a god, although she didn't reach that level. At the same time, she didn't expect that with her strength, she could only be regarded as a strong person who barely entered the second echelon. But overall, such a world called the pirate world is indeed much more interesting than her original world. It seems that this trip was not in vain. And she was actually the second strong person from another world summoned here by the man in front of her. If she was summoned here according to what the man in front of her said, she must be a villain in addition to being a strong person. Although she wanted to say that she was not, but thinking about some of her actions in her previous life and her identity as a demon king, it seemed that it was not too much to say that she was a villain. Even Ariel had nothing to say about this. However, when she heard Kuruda talk about the complete situation of this world, especially the hypocritical navy, the pirates who acted recklessly, the world government that disrupted and ruled the world, and the celestial dragon regime, her face was ugly and serious again. This is indeed another world that is terminally ill and needs to be saved. But after hearing Kuruda's ideas, and some ideas of other crew members, in other words, the purpose and goal of the fallen pirates, her eyes suddenly lit up. She suddenly found that it seemed to be very good to stay on such a strong ship that had some of the same villain thinking as her. Thinking of this, Ariel smiled and said, I want to be a captain of a big bad guy, suppress evil forces, and treat civilians well. There are also swordsmen with similar ideas but always want to show off, two little sisters who like to destroy fireworks but act as navigators, and a violent chef who loves food and cooking food. It sounds really good. Good, I like this atmosphere very much, and I agree with your ideas, so I am willing to join you. After she finished speaking, the voice of the system came out in Kuruda's mind. Congratulations to the host for getting Ariel's approval. 100% loyalty has been activated. Don't worry about being betrayed by her. Please experience a wonderful adventure with the summoned villain. This confused Kuruda and widened his eyes. Isn't it that easy? Just like that, she agreed directly. But even the system has issued a reminder. It's been a long time. This new partner hasn't been here for a long time. She has already recognized herself. What's going on? As a villain, and this is a female demon king with a high status in the original world, even if she is a little sadistic and has a second-year syndrome later. But as a strong person, she must have her own pride and ideas in her heart. She must have some conditions or tests like Sid. How can she agree so easily now? Well, can I ask you, did you agree so quickly? Don't you need to take a few more looks? Make a decision after investigating us. Kuruda, who was confused, asked directly with doubt. I don't have any nostalgia for my original world anymore. Now I just want to live well in your world. And you resurrected me and brought me to this world, giving me a new life. In addition, I said before that I also like your atmosphere and ideas, and your strength will be improved immediately in the future. I can only rely on you now, right? So naturally I have to join you, Captain. Ariel said with a smile, and finally showed his fangs. So that's what happened. After hearing his explanation, Kuruda understood it next time. Just because of his kindness in resurrecting Ariel and bringing her here to live a new life, Ariel couldn't leave. After all, Ariel still values gratitude. How can I welcome you? Kuruda directly extended his hand and said with a smile. Ariel also extended her hand with a smile. The two shook hands. Ariel now officially boarded the bull and became a member of the fallen pirates. But we are taking the route of the elite pirate group. In addition to being strong, we must also have a profession, which is what I said before. But for you, to be honest, what is your profession on the ship? I haven't thought about it yet. After stopping the handshake, Kuruda said a little embarrassedly. Because after thinking for a long time, he couldn't think of what Ariel could do. Could it be that she had to be the most common fighter? But who on their ship now doesn't have a side job and can go to fight? It's similar to the future Straw Hat Pirates. This really doesn't work. Can you give me some knowledge books so I can learn from them? Hearing this, Ariel also blinked and immediately suggested. Forget it, let's not think about it for now. Wait until we defeat the Navy in 3 days. You must be very hungry after you are resurrected, right? I will give you a large sum of money. There is a town island nearby, and there are probably shops open now. After all, this place has been liberated by us. You can go and have a good meal. Quote. Stay there for 1 night, because your appearance and joining my pirate group will play a role. You just, like this. Soon, Kuruda focused on what Ariel would do tomorrow. After Arya nodded in agreement, Kuruda immediately took out a large amount of barley and handed it to Ariel. The two of them quickly came to the deck. Under Kuruda's witness, Ariel actually jumped directly to the dock of Shield's town. Ariel turned around and smiled, waved goodbye, and walked directly into the town. It was obvious that he couldn't wait to have a good meal, and he also wanted to try the food culture and taste of this world. Soon, because of the obstruction of the house, Kuruda soon couldn't see her. To be honest, if it weren't for the kitchen, there really wouldn't be any leftovers, and he didn't want to expose Ariel's presence right now, and he had to wake everyone up in the middle of the night. Kuruda originally planned to let Ariel eat on the ship. But these factors really didn't allow it. But at the same time, he also remembered some of Ariel's problems. First of all, Ariel didn't seem to have any occupations in the pirate group, and she didn't have the ability to fly. This wouldn't work. As a big bad guy, how could his crew not be able to fly? But suddenly, he thought of the 3-choice-2 option. For every new partner, he had the ability to help them choose 3 from 2 and gain new abilities and items. Yeah, I almost forgot about this. Maybe this 3-choice-2 reward can help me solve this problem. Kuruda suddenly seemed to have broken some obstacles in his mind, and said with a big smile. System, list Ariel's 3-choice-2 options. Thinking of this, Kuruda immediately said to the system in his mind. 6-winged purple light wings. From the world of Duluo continent, the same type of purple-winged spider emperor as Bibi Dong, with soul bones attached, can extend 8 purple-pink spider legs over 2.5 meters long from the back, with powerful flying ability and all attributes increased by 50%. Quote. Top helmsman ability. Once used, a large amount of helmsman knowledge will be transmitted to the user's mind, instantly becoming a top helmsman. Quote. Spider sense. From the ability of Spider-Man in the Marvel world, it can sense danger in advance and make predictions when danger is about to come. Quote. Seeing these 3 choices, Kuruda chose the first and second ones very clearly. Now, what Ariel needs in his eyes is the ability to fly and a job on the ship. The first 6-winged purple light wing can already make Ariel fly, and the speed is not slow, and it can also bring a 50% increase in overall performance. The second one can make Ariel instantly become a top helmsman, which he thinks is also very good. As for the third reward, it can be said to be a bit useless for Ariel. Not to mention that Ariel already has such a similar ability, and can learn observation hockey in the future, so why does she need spider sense? Soon, after Kuruda chose these 2 options, 2 rays of light suddenly appeared and flew directly out of the cabin. Kuruda thought that there should be nothing to do now. Finally, he could sleep and return to bed. With a satisfied mentality, he fell asleep immediately, and there was already a rhythmic snoring. At the same time, on the other side, Ariel had ordered a lot of food at a late-night snack shop and had booked a private room in order not to be disturbed. She was enjoying her first big meal since her rebirth. It seems that the food in this world is better than my original world, Ariel said with a smile, drinking and eating kebabs. But it is true that the quality of the food and the chef's skills are indeed much better than Ariel's original world in this regard. Just came out, before Ariel could react. Under her witness, there was no time at all, 2 rays of light were injected directly into her body. At first she thought someone was attacking her, and she immediately reacted, but soon a lot of knowledge about top helmsmen suddenly appeared in her mind. She was suddenly filled with knowledge and experience, and she temporarily paused for a while. After learning this knowledge, she suddenly realized that she had become the world's top helmsman. Suddenly she felt itchy on her back again, turned her head and looked, and was stunned again, because she actually grew wings, which looked like the long legs of a spider, that is, they looked a bit like they were made of bones. But it was indeed very beautiful, but it was also wings. She could feel that she could indeed fly with this pair of wings, and at the same time she could also feel that when using these wings, she seemed to have become much stronger. It's amazing, they are all good things, it seems that they were all given to me by the captain. Now I am even more reluctant to leave, after all, they are all good things. Ariel, thinking of what Kuruda said before, suddenly realized that everything that happened to her now was Kuruda's fault. However, it is obvious that Ariel is very satisfied with the new knowledge and new items of these 2 things, and she is also very grateful to Kuruda in her heart. Not only did she resurrect herself and come to this interesting world to live again, but now she has eaten such delicious food. I am also very happy that her position on the pirate ship has been completed so quickly. Especially the spider wings behind her, which are not only beautiful and practical, but also greatly enhance her combat effectiveness. So after eating, Ariel flew a few circles in the sky and satisfied her flying addiction. But thinking of what Kuruda said, she could only find a hotel here tonight. Although she pouted a little dissatisfied, she thought that she had money in her hand, so what's wrong with living in a better place? So Ariel directly found a better hotel in Shieldstown and stayed there for the night. Soon it was the next day. After getting up, Kuruda washed and dressed a little, and came to the deck. Looking at the rising sun and the good weather, he felt better immediately. Oh, I didn't expect you to get up earlier than me. Kuruda looked over and found that it was Sid who came out, but he was not wearing a slime suit, but an ordinary suit. He said to him with a smile, "There's nothing wrong with getting up a little earlier." Kuruda smiled back. "Indeed, I do, let alone others. By the way, I'll give this back to you, thank you." Sid nodded and said, then immediately took out the teleportation energy bead and threw it to Kuruda. Kuruda immediately took it and said for the time being that he planned to give it to Ariel after a while, when Ariel came up completely, and when he had free time, so that she could also gain the ability to teleport. However, while Alan and the two sisters were not here, Kuruda also told Sid about Ariel's affairs, some basic information, including how to put on a good show next, and not to reveal that he had a system, and repeated it again. "I understand. Leave it to me. I like acting the most and I am the best at it." Sid nodded with a smile after listening. At the same time, he was also looking forward to this new beautiful partner. He didn't expect that another partner from another world would come so soon. "Brother Ku, Brother Shi, Brother Alan has cooked breakfast. Come in and eat." At this time, Liu Kei also walked out of the cabin, but she was obviously here to remind Kuruda and Sid to come in for breakfast. Okay, the two responded and came to the restaurant with Liu Kei. Soon, everyone began to enjoy breakfast. At the same time, Ariel was also enjoying breakfast in Shieldstown. What made her unexpected and happy was that even the world here was much stronger than her original world. And thinking that she was a demon king in the past, with the entire demon clan as her subordinates, but now it is not as good as when she came here. The food made by any small shop in this world is delicious. She felt sad in her heart. Is the gap so big? Did I eat pig food before? I don't want to think about it anymore. I'm going to shut myself up if I think about it anymore. Ariel shook her head quickly, and then quickly finished the breakfast she ordered. Thinking that the time she and Kuruda agreed to was still early, and that she didn't have a good time visiting the town last night, Ariel immediately walked around in Shieldstown after paying with Bailey. I have to admit that after the absence of Monka and his son, the daily life of the residents of Shieldstown has finally returned to peace, stability and peace, and even a lot of liveliness. Ariel, who was walking around, was also very happy and in a good mood. At the same time, Luffy and Zoro also boarded the small wooden boat that Luffy had taken before. After saying goodbye to Kobe, they continued their journey. However, although they were pirates, it was obvious that the Straw Hat Pirates gave people a different feeling. In order to express gratitude for liberating them, in addition to Kobe, a large number of Navy officers also came to help Luffy and his friends see them off, and even gave a military salute. Kobe also took this opportunity to join the Navy completely, but he could only start as a soldier, because soldiers were the lowest level in the Navy. However, at the same time, although Luffy received a gift package of the future #1 swordsman, for him, the future is still long, but in the future, with Kuruda, he will still take care of Luffy, because he had some regrets when watching One Piece, and he must solve them, otherwise he would come to the underwater world to be a big villain in vain. But it is lucky the problem of the navigator can be considered solved. After all, it will take some time for this little thief to join the Straw Hat Pirates, and he is not the next crew member. Now on the bowl, everyone has had breakfast. Under the leadership of Kuruda, everyone left the bowl and came to one of the two Navy warships. Looking at the Navy who were locked in the special cages of the Ghost Corps. It's been almost a day since I last ate. Coupled with the double blow of defeat and becoming a prisoner, many Navy soldiers are not only pale, but also haggard. Alan, I remember there are still a lot of food on these 2 warships. Can it keep these navy for a few days? Kuruda said meaningfully. Captain, I counted it yesterday. I took away some important ingredients and good quality. The remaining food is indeed enough for these navy to eat for several days. Alan really didn't understand what Kuruda meant, so he could only hand it over honestly. I have obtained some intelligence. The Navy's hero Vice Admiral Garp, Admiral Aokiji, and alternate Admirals Momosaki and Chatten, with at least 2 warships and about 500 people, are coming with the 50 million Baileys we asked for. They are our captives, but they are also our commodities. If the commodities have no physical problems or diseases, can we exchange the money for them? Order the ninjas to give these Navy commodities some normal food, Kuruda said with a smile. But after he finished speaking, whether it was his own people or the Navy locked in the cage, or even the Ghost Corps soldiers who were closer, they were all horrified after hearing it. Listen, is what you said human? But after those Navy soldiers reacted, they were overjoyed and angry. The great joy was naturally because the Navy's heroes and generals came to save them. They didn't have to die, they were not abandoned by the Navy, which touched their hearts and made them happy. The anger was actually because of Kuruda, who actually treated them as commodities and tools to exchange for money, plus that smiling face, which was simply a great insult to them. Bang! The hot-tempered ghost spider stood up directly, grabbed the cage railing with both hands, gritted his teeth, and said with anger that seemed to be emitting flames in his eyes. Boy, don't be complacent. Do you think that after Vice Admiral Garp and others come and redeem us, you can take the money and leave? You don't know the horror of Mr. Garp and Mr. Aokiji. They are all heroes and the strongest admirals of our Navy, and Miss Tautu and Mr. Chatten are not vegetarians either. Ghost Spider really didn't believe that with such a lineup, plus they were rescued and could eat normally these days, they couldn't take down these pirates and bring them to justice. Although the people on the opposite side were not at the level of alternate admirals, they were already at the level of admirals. After all, he and Huo Shaoshan had fought with Alan and others yesterday, and he also witnessed the battle between Kuruda and Sid in the distance yesterday. He had to admit that this was also the reason why he believed that time was very broken last night. These people in front of him were indeed not simple. Even in the New World, they were among the strongest. If it was an ordinary navy, they could only rescue them and could not go to war with them. But the Navy hero Vice Admiral Garp, Admiral Aokiji, plus 2 alternate admirals, and the arrival of 500 elite Navy soldiers. He really didn't believe that he couldn't take down the other party. Hearing this, whether it was Sid or Kuruda, naturally there was nothing. They were both 2 lives, and they had experienced ups and downs. They had seen all kinds of big scenes. But Alan and the 2 sisters immediately became worried, because they had heard of the reputation of the Navy admirals and heroes. When these people were added, the top combat power would really be at a disadvantage on their side, and the gap in top combat power was also the key to determining the battle. So the 3 of them naturally became worried. Ahahaha. But hearing the words of the ghost spider, Kuruda couldn't help laughing, and even laughed very loudly. This made everyone, except Sid who knew the truth, stunned. What was going on? Why could Kuruda still laugh now, and his laughter was full of ridicule? Boy, what are you laughing at? Aren't you afraid of our luxurious Navy lineup? Ghost Spider roared a little, his expression full of anger, because in his opinion, the other party clearly looked down on their Navy, and even overestimated their own capabilities. Even if it was an overestimated performance, as a hawkish Navy, he couldn't stand it. I felt angry just by looking at it. Haha, I'm afraid, of course I'm afraid that they won't come, otherwise I won't be able to get this money to serve as my future group fee. Kuruda laughed indifferently. Humph, arrogant. Huo Shaoshan, who was locked in the same cage with Ghost Spider, turned his head and said with a sneer. No, I'm sure, absolutely sure, right, King Ale. Kuruda continued to say with a smile and shouted King Ale's name, and also used the power of the ultimate battle instrument. King Ale, what King Ale, what is he talking about? When everyone felt puzzled, even Sid was puzzled this time. But soon, everyone was shocked. They first felt the boat shaking, and suddenly a huge splash of water jumped out from the sea next to them. Everyone looked and then they were all stunned. Because it was a beige head with 2 pairs of rotating horns on it. Although it was just a forehead, it slowly returned to the sea, but it was followed by a long beige tail and that unique cry. Hey, hey, hey. Finally, the long tail slapped the sea again, forming huge splashes and waves. Everyone was scared and stunned. There was no way. This is the common behavior of most people who see many huge monsters. Huge things always bring some shock to people, even fear. What was that just now? Is it a sea king? This guy actually raised a sea king. Many Navy soldiers said one after another. Even after they finished speaking, they recognized that the Navy Vice Admiral, Huoshaoshan and Ghost Spider, as well as Alan, also thought it was a sea king. What is that? But of course, only Kuruda, who was controlling everything, knew what it was, so Ghost Spider looked at him again and asked. Nothing, just my pet, which I just got recently. It is a large sea monster with a certain amount of intelligence. Kuruda didn't want to overexpose the monster, so he said in a somewhat confusing way. That's still a joke. Do you think that with such a sea beast, can you reverse the gap in high-end combat power with our great navy? Ghost Spider said with disdain and sneer again, because in his opinion, it was just a sea beast. Of course I know this, but who told you that I only have such a pet? And it's enough to deal with your 2 vice admirals and navy soldiers. Kuruda continued with a smile. What, more than one? Now everyone was surprised. There was more than one of those oppressive sea beasts in Kuruda's hands, and they could deal with the vice admiral of the navy. Could it be that those sea beasts also have the strength of the vice admiral of the navy? So what, you still can't have high-end combat power? Huoshaoshan snorted coldly and continued to speak with that smile again. Ha ha ha, it's not possible now, but it may be different in a while. Kuruda continued to say with a smile. Once again, everyone was confused. What is going on? Alan and the 2 sisters felt that they were getting more and more unable to keep up with Kuruda's ideas. What are you talking about? Ghost Spider said, puzzled and angry. Ha ha, finally here. But suddenly, Kuruda found a figure flying from the direction of Shield's town. Looking at the familiar figure and the 6-winged purple wings he helped him choose yesterday, he understood that Ariel came over, just as he had agreed yesterday. Everyone immediately looked over and saw the figure flapping its wings and flying over. Seeing that the newcomer could actually fly, many people were surprised. Of course, they were mainly people from the pirate world, including Alan and the 2 sisters, because in their cognition, most people who could fly were definitely not weak. Under the witness of everyone, Ariel quickly flew above the Navy warship, retracted the 6-winged purple wings, and actually jumped onto the deck so smoothly. However, many people present were still a little dazed when they saw Ariel's image for the first time. There was no way, the image of the domineering queen was still very shocking. It was indeed a little exposed in her clothes, and her perfect figure even made some Navy soldiers drool. There are only a few beauties in the pirate world, such as Hancock or Nami. Every time they appear, they can cause cheers and obsession from some old perverts and men. Finally found you. Fortunately, you haven't left yet, Ariel said with a smile. Haha, welcome to your arrival, old friend. I knew that as our reputation spread, you would definitely come. Kuruda also said with a smile. Brother Ku, who is this? Alan asked curiously. But at the same time, he also thought that this was another old friend of Kuruda, but I didn't know him. This is an old friend I once knew, named Ariel, who is about the same age as us, and is one of the targets I will recruit on board. Ariel is also a top physical warrior and an excellent helmsman. Kuruda introduced Ariel to everyone directly. Haha, please give me more advice in the future. Ariel laughed. Well, so you want to go directly to my bowl. According to these agreed plays, Kuruda said in a pretended surprised way. Haha, it's too strange to say anything else, and I've seen your performance, so I applied to board the ship, old friend. No, it's the captain. Ariel said. Okay, welcome to join my fallen pirates. Alan, Lucy, Luke, it seems that we're going to hold another welcome party today. You go prepare. If there are any missing supplies, go to the town to buy some. Kuruda turned around quickly, smiled at the 2 sisters and Alan. But when he said this, he immediately understood why many pirate groups in the pirate world always hold parties for no reason. Yes, Captain. Hearing that there was going to be another party, the 3 of them were immediately very happy, but just as they were about to leave, Sid stood up. Captain, can I have a competition with this new partner and understand his strength? Sid said while making a gesture of asking for instructions. Hearing this, everyone else was stunned for a moment, including Kuruda and Ariel, who were the parties involved. Kuruda thought about it and thought that he probably saw other strong men from other worlds and wanted to compete with them. However, it seemed good to show Ariel's strength in front of his partners and these Navy soldiers. So he nodded and said, "Okay, Ariel, what do you say?" "Haha, I don't refuse any challenge." Ariel laughed. Obviously, Ariel would accept anyone who came to fight. After all, in her previous life, she was either on the way to fight or already fighting. Hearing that the two sides were competing, Alan and the other two also became interested, so they did not leave immediately. Not to mention seeing the strength of their new partner Ariel, they could also see Mr. Sid's superb swordsmanship and equally powerful strength again. Even the Navy trapped in the cage had some new dramas. Of course, they were more afraid. The people on the Skull Island beach in front of them must be very powerful. Maybe they were at least alternate admiral level combat power. Now that the other side has such a strong man, if the Navy is the lineup that the other side said before, then it is really not certain that they can win. Thinking of this, even the Vice Admirals Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain felt a little nervous. No way, it's just the East China Sea, how could there be another strong man jumping out? Watch the sword. But at this time, Sid had already taken the lead and slashed at Ariel with a long sword. But Ariel smiled slightly, stretched out her right hand wearing a black glove, and easily blocked the sword and held the blade in the dumbfounded eyes of everyone. What? Sid was surprised. Perhaps it was the first time he saw someone so easily take his sword attack with one hand. But Kuruda nodded when he saw this scene. This ordinary sword, with Ariel's own physical level, it is still no problem to block it with one hand. Show some strength, okay, Ariel said with a smile. Soon, the smile turned into a cold one, and she punched him with a super fast punch. But with a bang, Sid reacted in time and took out the crowbar on his waist to block it. But soon, his face changed again. No, it was such a strong force. Suddenly, Ariel released the long sword in her right hand and punched Sid out. After Sid controlled himself and stopped. Ha! Sid looked up, and Ariel had jumped up at some point, kicking him down with a split kick. No, the speed of pure flesh bursting out was so fast, and there was no energy fluctuation on the other party. But at the same time, Sid also understood that he could not face the other party head-on. Otherwise, it would be his own weakness that hit the other party's strength. So he jumped up to avoid it and flew into the air. Ariel didn't hold back, and directly kicked the deck of the Navy warship. With a bang, a large piece of the deck was broken into pieces of wood. Watch the sword. Sid also took this opportunity to chop down with a sword, and this time he even added magic. The purple flames burned on the shadow sword, and Ariel turned and punched. With a bang, the two collided again, and a huge wave of air was set off around. But after all, Ariel was stronger. With a little force on her fist, Sid was beaten back again and fell on the deck. Looking at the powerful enemy in front of him, Sid had to sigh that he had been a little narrow-minded before, and he really couldn't underestimate the strong people in other worlds. Although he hadn't used some moves yet, he also knew that the other party should not have used any trump cards. His intuition told him that if he really talked about hard if he is strong, he is indeed not his opponent. Do you want to fight again? Ariel retracted her fist and smiled again. Sid shook his head, and then said nonsense to Kuruda. Captain, Ariel is qualified to be our partner on board. Obviously, he has recognized such a powerful villain from another world who is stronger than him. Kuruda nodded and said, okay, everyone will be partners in the future, let's get along well in the future. Yes, Alan, Luke, Lucy, Sid, and Ariel all responded with a smile. Kuruda also looked directly at the dumbfounded and dazed Ghost Spider and Huo Shaoshan and said, now we have another general-level strongman on our side, is the high-end combat power still lacking? When he said this again, Kuruda was full of confidence, because according to his previous plan, Aokiji and Garp should be dealt with by himself, Sid, and new partners. Especially the new partner, it is best to be a strong person in physical skills. If he is lucky, Kuruda can even get a villain from the 10,000 worlds whose physical skills are better than Garp. I have to admit that he is indeed very lucky. With 10,000 years of close combat experience and the body brought by the ancient beast, Garp may not be able to get a good result in pure physical skills at the hands of Ariel. Even after learning the three-color domineering in the future, the gap will be widened. Although the spider sensing ability is useless to Ariel, the subsequent observation kill and observation hockey, which predict the future, are still of great benefit to Ariel's overall combat power improvement. However, in any case, these are all things for the future. At least 2 days later, with Ariel here, the Navy is destined to return in defeat this time. At this time, Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain, after seeing Ariel's strength, turned pale and ugly, because they knew that the other side had another top-level strongman, and with those so-called sea beasts, they might really be able to deal with them. In this case, even if it was Garp who came this time and Aokiji led the team, it would be hard to say who would win if the two sides fought. The result of this battle was either that their navy lost and retreated, or that the other side escaped, but no matter which one, they didn't want to see it. They should arrest or eliminate the other side completely. Many Navy soldiers also thought of this, and their faces were suddenly desperate and pale. Seeing their expressions, Kuruda was immediately satisfied, because this was the big bad guy, making the other side feel desperate and fearful before the battle even started. He really liked the expressions on the faces of these Navy men. Besides, there were many things, such as energy cannons and blue light energy shields, which he hadn't mentioned yet. But no matter what, the Navy was bound to lose this time. Because Kuruda was full of confidence in their current strength. Soon, since the Navy soldiers here had nothing to do, everyone returned to the bowl and let the Ghost Corps continue to guard these Navy soldiers. But after uploading, Alan and the two sisters naturally went to prepare for the new welcome party, and even went to the town of Shields to replenish the party. While they were away, Kuruda first handed the smooth teleportation energy bead to Ariel and explained its function again. Ariel didn't expect that there was such a magical bead, and she was surprised for a moment. Soon, after she tried it, she was even more amazed that she actually gained the ability to teleport. As a strong person, she naturally knew how important such a space ability was to improving her combat power. So after gaining the teleportation ability, she once again expressed her gratitude to Kuruda. "It's okay. I've said before that my fallen pirates are elite. This teleportation ability is a benefit for the crew members to board the ship. Besides, this ability is very useful. You actually got involved with me, so I will not treat you unfairly. By the way, you can take a look at this." Kuruda smiled and said that it was okay. He originally planned that all his partners should have the ability to teleport. But at the same time, he also took out the super fast three-color domineering training method, and the two quickly took it and read it. After reading it, they immediately understood that this is the special power of this world. After reading it, especially Sid, who already has the advanced level of domineering color, they all understand that even in their original world, the three-color domineering is a very good ability. But they reacted quickly and were surprised. They didn't expect that they could actually obtain such a special ability, and they were also very confident in their own strength and talent. They thought that they would not need half a year at all, and could even shorten the period of time to learn the three-color domineering. Especially Sid, after all, he already knows Conqueror hockey, so he only needs to focus on learning the other two types of hockey. So when Ariel heard Sid's choice of 3 out of 2, he actually already had advanced Conqueror hockey, and let him have it, she immediately felt a little envious. Then she pouted a little dissatisfied and looked at Kuruda, as if to say, "You gave me the choice, why not as good as others?" "There is no way. On the pirate ship, Sid can be a swordsman, you don't have any professional foundation, but you jump out top helmsman experience. This ability appears in your 2 choices, and I can only choose this one for you, and you will definitely learn observation hockey in the future, which is repeated with your other choice that I didn't choose, so I chose the 6-winged purple light wing to make up for your inability to fly." Quote. "But don't worry, I can exchange for more 10,000 worlds items and abilities in the future, and continue to enrich you." Kuruda also hurriedly explained, "And he can continue to earn reputation points in the future, and then he will certainly exchange more 10,000 worlds items for these partners to use." Hearing this, Ariel nodded with satisfaction. "That's about right. Then I will look forward to it." Sid laughed. "Haha, definitely, but for the 3-color hockey, you all have to practice it." Kuruda first agreed, and then emphasized that the three-color hockey must be practiced well. Well, the two of them hummed, and they understood it, because after listening to Kuruda's own story, they also understood how important the three-color domineering was to their future life and battles in the pirate world. So naturally they would pay attention to it. After a while, since Arya had not passed away, they quickly chose a room they liked in the cabin. Kuruda and Sid had nothing to do, so they immediately helped Ariel clean the room first, and then moved some furniture in, including some furniture and items that Ariel had bought in Shieldstown and liked. As for the final arrangement, it was naturally left to Ariel. In this way, Ariel's bedroom on the bowl was quickly decorated. Brother Ku, Brother Sid, Miss Ariel, the welcome party is ready. It was Luke who came to the cabin and asked Kuruda and the other two to attend the party outside. Here we are. The three of them smiled at each other and walked out together. Soon, the new welcome party was held smoothly. Well, let's welcome Ariel to be the helmsman of our ship and the sixth member of our fallen pirates. Now I declare that the welcome party will begin. Kuruda picked up the glass filled with wine, stood up and said with a smile. Cheers. Everyone also stood up and toasted, but their expressions were full of joy and happiness. Thank you everyone, I like this atmosphere and family very much. Ariel said with a genuine smile. Soon, everyone started to enjoy the food, drink delicious drinks and sweet juice again. But this time Ariel was there. But in short, this party was held perfectly, and everyone was very happy, laughing and eating non-stop. But all good things must come to an end. After the party, everyone was full. Kuruda didn't want Alan to clean up the dishes, so he immediately asked the Ghost Corps to take action. After all, the ninja soldiers were versatile. What's wrong with cleaning up? All the essays returned to their bedrooms, took a short rest, or fell asleep directly. It was not until 2 o'clock in the afternoon that Kuruda summoned everyone to the special meeting room on the bowl. Everyone quickly gathered around a table and sat down. As the captain, Kuruda took the lead in bringing up the topic of facing the Navy in 2 days. According to my intelligence, in 2 days, the Navy will bring the 50 million Baileys we want to redeem the Navy hostages from us. After Kuruda finished speaking, he pointed directly to the window outside the meeting room, from which one of the Navy warships they had captured could be seen. Captain, isn't this great? We have another income, Luke said curiously, a little confused. Silly sister, you are stupid. The captain actually said that. I guess the Navy must be dishonest this time. In addition, we have shown our strength. The Navy probably has regarded us as a threat. So the people sent by the Navy to trade with us this time must be extraordinary. And I guess after exchanging hostages, the other party will take the initiative to attack. Lucy first blamed her sister, and then immediately expressed her guess. Ariel and Sid also looked at Lucy. This girl is quite smart. As for the girl next to her, she is a little silly, but also very cute. That's right. This time, the Navy should have 2 warships, led by the current Admiral of the Navy, Aokiji Kuzan, and the hero of the Navy, Vice Admiral Garp. Among them, one warship should be Garp's dog-headed warship, and the other one is probably similar to the one next to us. More than that, the other side has nearly 500 naval elites, as well as alternate admirals Momosado Jien and Shitori Kaji. If those naval soldiers are released, there will be nearly 200 naval soldiers left. Such a force can no longer be underestimated, Kuruda said seriously. Everyone was the same after hearing this, including Ariel and Sid, because they have already begun to understand the world of pirates, and naturally what kind of strength they are in this world. That is the so-called admiral level, and it is said that the so-called naval hero Vice Admiral Garp is stronger than ordinary emperor-level strongmen, which means that their high-end combat power is not as good as the other side. However, Melancholy had only been here for a short time, so he naturally didn't know much about the other names, and how powerful this lineup was. But seeing that Kuruda and the 3 people next to him also had a serious expression, I thought it should be not simple. After all, even Kuruda's original 3 partners knew what their current strength was like. Captain, what are you going to do? Alan asked. Nonsense, of course I will fight. I want to be a big villain, and make many villains afraid of me, so I must fight this battle, and we are not without advantages. Kuruda first said one word at home, fight. Then he told all his own ideas and recent gains. For example, the energy cannon, the blue light defense system, and the things about the monsters were also explained a little bit, so that everyone could believe it, especially Alan and the other two, because the things about the monsters were when they were helping Ariel clean the room. Since they were powerful villains summoned by the system, they could naturally say it. After all, they were summoned from another world, so they naturally believed in the saying of the 10,000 worlds. So soon after Kuruda's explanation, both of them knew about the Ultra World and the monsters. After learning about the power of the Ultra World, the two of them took a deep breath. The multiverse, destroying stars and universes at will, this is a world they dared not think about and could not accept before. Both of them thought that the Ultra World would not be the top world in the 10,000 worlds, right? However, if Kuruda knew, he would definitely say no, very disdainful. Ultra World, it is just an upper middle level. Compared with those real top worlds, such as Hongwang, Zodian, and Perfect, they are far behind. However, in the pirate world, even if the monsters have been weakened, they are indeed very strong, and what appears here now is just an ordinary monster. But now in the conference room, Kuruda made Alan and the other two believe that it was not such a sea king, but an ancient creature from the pirate world long ago. Under the pirate world, there were many places sleeping. Only the ultimate battle instrument in his hand could wake them up and collect them for his own use. Of course, this is not just an explanation to Alan and the other three. In order to better use the power of monsters in the face of more outsiders, such a lie must be made up. As for what will happen in the outside world, it is none of his business. Anyway, the monsters are all exchanged by him from the system, and only he can order them to be used. If anyone dares to hit the monsters, then it is naturally a jackal coming, and the shotgun is ready. However, Alan and the other three were still very unbelievable after listening, but they did it quickly. After all, the beneficiaries are themselves and the captain, plus the trust for many years. However, the new two Ghost Shadow battle groups, plus the next walk out of the conference room, Kuruda gave a detailed explanation, and demonstrated the energy cannon and blue light energy shield, which still shocked everyone. Finally, after returning to the conference room, Kuruda explained the distribution of opponents among the people present. In this way, everyone was full of confidence. With such a huge advantage, why couldn't they fight back the Navy's ignorance this time? Thoroughly slap the Navy hard. So after Kuruda finished speaking, everyone immediately supported the idea of advocacy. Of course, this also includes the fact that most of the people present are warriors or battle maniacs. Otherwise, the opinions would not be unified so quickly. After this meeting, Kuruda also asked everyone to go back and prepare for the battle 2 days later, rest, adjust, and of course practice a little. Soon, everyone was busy again, but basically they practiced and practiced before the battle. For example, Sid and Ariel were familiar with their original strength and practiced the three-color domineering, and Kuruda and others practiced what they could. What kind of physical skills, devil fruit abilities, and improving the technology of using weapons. Later, Kuruda immediately said a combination of work and rest, and everyone also relaxed appropriately. After all, who would go to fight after being exhausted from training? Soon, the 2 days passed, and while training, Kuruda had been using Latora to keep an eye on the 2 naval warships that had just reunited. Such a powerful and mighty navy would soon enter the East China Sea in the first half of the Great Navigation. However, they had no idea that there was a giant bird above them, which had given Kuruda their coordinates, direction of navigation, and even some of the content of their conversation. But basically, there is no important intelligence, and the other party can arrive on time. At that time, it is estimated that as long as one hand pays the other hand, the battle will take place. However, he thought about it. In such a large-scale battle with strong people, in order not to affect the town of Shelts, it is better to stay away. To be precise, they should take the initiative to attack and go to the Navy. Well, let's do it, and the reputation has been spread long ago. Those reporters have sharp noses, so there is no need for me to go to find them specifically. I believe that this time it is either to defeat the Navy or to escape unscathed, but it is better to be the former, which will definitely earn more reputation points. Kuruda first of all naturally believed that his method was feasible. At the same time, this battle must be spread, because only in this way can he earn reputation points. Let Latora continue to stare at the Navy, and Kuruda also fell asleep directly to nourish his physical strength for tomorrow's battle. The same is true for others. They all fell asleep early, even those detained Navy, because they knew that they would fight after being redeemed tomorrow. There are probably 2 warships on the Bull. The only ones who don't sleep are the Ghost Corps. At the same time, except for the soldiers who have to stand guard and patrol, Garp ordered everyone to rest in advance on the 2 Navy warships that have entered the East China Sea, because he knows very well that for these low-level soldiers, tomorrow will be a tough battle, and conserving energy is the most important thing. Although he is confident that he can immediately defeat the opponent with top combat power tomorrow, he wants to reduce casualties. Although Garp is usually careless, as a veteran with nearly decades of experience in the Navy, he will still be very skilled in commanding when he is about to face a battle. Aokiji, Tautu, and Chadan naturally have no objection to Garp's orders, so they all go back to their cabins to rest. But unfortunately, because of the gap in intelligence between the 2 sides, they don't know that the other side has Ariel, such a top-level alien physical powerhouse. What Kuruda got before and what he got recently can also serve as trump cards, which is enough for them to eat a pot. However, in terms of intelligence capabilities in a small area, Kuruda still has a little advantage with Littora, but if it is placed in the whole world, the intelligence capabilities of the Navy are definitely the world's top. So in Kuruda's view, it is very important to enhance intelligence capabilities in the future, or to summon a partner who can easily handle the intelligence capabilities of the whole world in the future. Soon, the night ended, the sun rose, a new day came, and it was time for the appointment. Kuruda and his team of 6 people were still enjoying the breakfast prepared by Alan in advance at ordinary times. As a chef, he naturally always got up earlier than everyone else. But relatively speaking, with the Ghost Corps at night, Alan did not have to stand guard, and he was also a lot more relaxed. Even after eating, he did not have to clean up the dishes and wash the dishes by himself. Although Alan did not say it on the surface, he was very satisfied in his heart. It was great to have the Ghost Corps. For example, now after everyone has finished eating, they all sit in their seats for a while, and the Ghost Corps are already cleaning up the dishes and washing the dishes. But this bottleneck will not last long, because everyone knows that there will be a battle today, and it will be in the morning according to the agreed time. Everyone, I don't want to spread the battle to Shields Town, so this time we take the initiative to meet them, just like Alan and Lucy Loop dealt with the Navy before. I already know the direction of the other party, so let's go to fight, and use this battle to completely start our reputation and shock to the world of our fallen pirates. Kuruda finally made the final pre-war command. After all, he made the decision to take the initiative last night, and he hasn't told anyone yet. However, encouragement and declarations before the war are also very important. Yes, Captain. They didn't pursue Kuruda's decision, but it sounded reasonable. They just had to obey the captain's orders. After all, they are crew members and partners who can trust each other. Let's not talk about Alan and the 2 sisters who have been together for about 4 years. After Ariel and Sid recognized Kuruda, their loyalty to Kuruda was also increased to 100% by the system. Therefore, they always obey Kuruda's orders absolutely. Besides, if a captain cannot make his crew do things, then it is better not to be a captain. Is it worth it? After all, as a captain, cohesion is very important. Soon, everyone left the restaurant and came to the deck. The first one is Ariel, who is now the helmsman. In addition, Kuruda also said that for the Bull, how to drive a special electric boat. After Kuruda told the 2 sisters the position of the Navy, the 2 sisters cooperated with Ariel, and after Alan pulled up the anchor, the Bull set off. Sid also temporarily got the command of the Ghost Corps, and asked the Ghost soldiers to drive 2 Navy warships and follow them. In this way, after staying here for almost a few days, the Bull finally set off, and a tough battle was waiting for them next. Navy, I'm here, taking the first step to become the world's top villain. Here I come, Kuruda said with a smile standing on the bow. At this time, Garp and his companions, who had already entered the East China Sea, seemed to have rested for a whole night and were preparing to hoist the sails and set sail. Garp just watched, eating a bag of senbei in one hand, but the sound of eating was really loud, which made Aokiji, Tautu, and Chadan next to him extremely helpless. Didn't they just have breakfast? Why do you still have such an appetite? Still eating senbei, they are about to face the fallen pirates. Even if there is a full chance of winning, can't you be quiet now? Mr. Garp, let's follow the plan we agreed on before. Tautu shook her head and said. That's right, redeem the people first. After all, they are our partners, and they must be rescued, and then we will fight. But before the battle, I still have to ask, why did those little ghosts who were trying to make a living everywhere come to be pirates now? Garp said while continuing to eat senbei. But it was precisely because he wanted to question Kuruda and the others that Tautu asked the previous question. But it's not too late to feed them after we capture them. Tautu said again, because in her opinion, the duty of the Navy is to eliminate and arrest pirates. How can they chat and laugh with pirates before the battle? Forget it, escape. This is Mr. Garp's idea. He must have his purpose for doing this, such as getting to know the opponent before the battle. After all, we don't know the devil fruit abilities of the 4 people on the other side. Chatten yawned and said. Indeed, if the information is obtained before the battle, it doesn't matter if we chat for a while. Aokiji agreed with Chatten's idea. Hey, whatever you want, I don't care about you. Hearing that these 3 people were like this, Tautu was almost angry, but the minority obeys the majority, and she could only agree helplessly. Okay, I have to ask, but it would be best if I could get some information. However, I still can't believe that those little kids who looked sunny and kind-hearted back then would actually choose to be pirates. What happened to them after about 2 years of news? Why did they choose to go this way? I still want to know. Garp also stopped eating senbei and said. Respect Mr. Garp's choice. Aokiji and the other 2 looked at each other and said at the same time, as if they had understood why Garp did this. Okay, let's get ready to set sail. Although I don't believe they will kill someone, we have to be on guard. The agreed time is in the morning, let's go quickly. Garp said. Yes. After hearing this, the 3 immediately planned to arrange 2 warships, give orders, and prepare to set sail officially. But at this moment, when the soldiers on the observation deck saw the large ship coming from afar with a telescope, especially the style and flag of the ship, which was obviously a pirate, they hurriedly said to the people below. There is a pirate group approaching us right in front of us, nearly 4 kilometers away. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Many people's first reaction was, is there another blind pirate group coming to the door or passing by? Although the strength of the East China Sea is very weak, the number of pirate groups and pirates is really large. Yes, this is the nth time we have encountered it. After we entered the East China Sea. Although this is a merit, it is too small. Humph, looking at the lineup on our ship, it is simply courting death. The Navy soldiers quickly communicated. However, it is obvious that they all believe that with their current lineup, the little pirates from the East China Sea can only be easily dealt with in a few minutes, so their tone is full of confidence and even pride. Garp and the other 4 basically looked at each other with an expression of disregard. Because the matter of this little pirate does not require them to take action, and it can be solved by sending some soldiers here. Even Aokiji wanted to continue to command, while continuing to move forward, and let people deal with those little pirates. But soon, the lookout marine on the observation deck once again used a telescope to look at the pirate ship that was about to arrive, especially after seeing the flag on it clearly, what was painted on it. And the 2 warships that appeared behind, he immediately understood, and then said again to the people below with some panic. It's not good, it's not an ordinary little pirate, it's the fallen pirates, and there are warships of our navy behind them. The other party took the initiative to find us. Although he was just a lookout, he was able to participate in this operation and naturally knew some information. For example, there were already Navy prisoners in the hands of the other party, and some information about Kuruda and others known to the Navy, such as what their pirate group looked like and what was painted on the flag. Soon after hearing his words, the confidence and pride on the faces of these Navy officers disappeared, and then they became a little panicked, and even shouted, but more of it was a trace of anger. What? The fallen pirates? They actually came to us, they really don't take our Navy seriously. When the battle starts later, we must teach them a lesson. I just don't know how much I weigh, and dare to challenge our current lineup. Obviously, Kuruda and his men have come, but their behavior is simply a provocation in the eyes of the Navy, who are usually a little proud and confident. At the same time, it is also the confidence in their top lineup of the Navy this time. No wonder there is anger now, and the pride before. Quick, prepare for battle immediately, stop moving forward, and be ready to face it. Tautu finally changed his face, and then immediately gave orders. Even Garp and the other two looked serious, because they knew very well that according to the information they had now, the pirate group they were about to face was probably second only to the Yellow Emperor level pirate group. After all, the other side has 2 generals and 3 general candidates. It is not an exaggeration to say that such strength is second only to the Emperor level. Soon, after Tautu gave the order, the navy also began to get busy. After all, they were angry before, and they were elite and well-trained, so they naturally acted very quickly. Under the leadership of Garp, several people also came to the bow, and finally, they also saw the upcoming fallen pirates. What is this kid Kuruda thinking about? He actually took the initiative to meet us, Garp said with surprise and confusion. Others did not answer because they did not know. In fact, they had never thought of this possibility, whether now or before. It seems that the battle will be advanced. It's really troublesome, Kuzan sighed. Humph, come as soon as possible. Tautu pouted and said with some dissatisfaction. I thought I could rest for a while, forget it, a quick battle is also fine. Chaden said, and his attitude was basically the same as Aokiji Kuzan. But it was obvious that the 3 of them had never thought of losing. This was also their confidence in their own strength and their lineup. Take the people back first, and wait until I finish asking questions before fighting. Garp added. After hearing this, the other 3 could only nod again. After all, this was agreed upon before, and they almost forgot it in a hurry. On the other side, on the Bull. Captain, I saw the Navy warship, especially the dog-head bow. The target is in front. Liu Kei said on the observation deck. Stop at a distance of 1,000 meters, stop the ship, drop the anchor, and the Navy warship lowers the sail. Kuruda ordered. Yes, everyone quickly did what he said. Under the witness of Garp and others on the opposite side, the Bull stopped at a distance of 1,000 meters from the other side, and then according to what Kuruda said before, Alan and others quickly did it. The 2 sides soon confronted each other, standing on the bow and looking at each other. Kuruda looked at the opposite side, but mainly Garp and Aokiji. After all, the navy on the opposite side was the most difficult to deal with, and they were the most difficult to deal with. Moreover, as the saying goes, soldiers against soldiers, generals against generals, and commanders against commanders. As the captain, he naturally had to face Garp, the leader of the other side. Alan, Lucy, Luke, Sid, Ariel and others also came to the bow, behind Kuruda, and just looked at the opposite side. Or it could be said that the opponent had been assigned long ago. Yeah, but at this time, the Navy saw Ariel, who had never appeared in the intelligence, and saw the opponent's position, and actually stood on the left and right sides behind Kuruda with Sid. Garp and others were shocked, and then some of their faces were ugly. Obviously, they had guessed something. Who is that woman? She can stand with that swordsman. Could she also be a general-level combat power? Tautu was the first to say with disbelief in her eyes. From the position, it is very likely. Chaden said. She looks pretty and cute, but is she also a top-level warrior? Kuzan was already curious about Ariel's appearance. Don't judge a person by appearance. She's a little out of our control now. I just hope the girl on the other side isn't very strong, right? Garp said seriously. For some reason, he had a bad feeling when he saw Ariel. Besides, it's only been a few days, and Kuruda has attracted such a strong man. Could it be a friend he knew before? He took the initiative to come here because his reputation has been raised. Only a top-level swordsman like Sid would be killed by Kuruda. Da agreed and took the initiative to invite him to board the ship. Garp didn't believe that Ariel, who could stand at the same position as Sid, would at least have the strength of a general in Kuruda's eyes. At the same time, he also understood that if the opponent really had an additional general, it would be hard to say who would win or lose in this battle. The next battle would depend on the strength and trump cards of both sides. Of course, luck would also play a part. At the same time, after the last confrontation, Kuruda first used the power of chaos to amplify his voice, and then said directly, "Ha ha ha, you shouldn't mind us coming early." But when Kuruda heard what he said, the 2 Navy ships next to the Bull, the Navy on board, and the Navy on the opposite side, all gnashed their teeth. Because no one has ever spoken to the Navy like this, or with such an attitude, Kuruda is definitely the first. You know, even the Emperor-level pirate team will not take the initiative to greet the Navy with their current lineup unless the situation is urgent or special, so now in the eyes of these Navy, Kuruda is simply a fool. Even Garp and his men showed a trace of speechlessness and anger on their faces. When did pirates become so arrogant? Okay, no more nonsense. One hand pays the money, the other hand delivers the goods. 50 million Bailey, I believe you should be able to take it out, and you can redeem these people. Kuruda felt that it was about right, so he went straight to the point. He first had to get the other party's 50 million Bailey. This little money, the Navy can afford it, but I have to see if they are okay first. Garp said. Okay, I'll have my ninja drive the 2 warships over. With your strength, you can see the situation on the warships, but let me see my Bailey now. Kuruda continued. Okay, bring up the box containing Bailey. Garp agreed first, then turned and said to the Navy soldiers behind him. Soon, some Navy soldiers came out with a large box and handed it to Garp, who also let Kuruda see the box directly. Okay, after Kuruda finished speaking, even if it was just a good word, he waved his hand, and suddenly, the ghost ninjas on the 2 warships drove the warships and headed towards Garp and his team. Talking about the Navy warships that were getting closer and closer, especially the people trapped in the cages on them were safe and sound, Garp and his team immediately breathed a sigh of relief. When it was almost 100 meters, Kuruda said again, throw the box containing Bailey onto the warship, and my ninja will bring Bailey back. Garp also threw the box directly onto the warship. Soon, including him, the other 3 were also startled, because they saw that on the 2 warships, especially the warship where the box was thrown, the ninja soldiers directly grabbed the box, including those who did not do anything, all disappeared in the shadows, including the box containing Bailey. Go up and take over. Tautu gave an order, and immediately, some Navy soldiers came to the 2 warships, began to rescue the hostages, and took charge of the warships. Those ninjas are really amazing. Looking at the disappearing ninja, it really left through the shadow, and seeing that 2 ninjas on the other side had appeared again, and presented the treasure box to Kuruda. Garp, Aokiji, and Chadan all sighed at the magic of ninjas. Kuruda also opened the box and took a quick look. There were indeed 50 million Baileys. He smiled slightly and asked the ninja soldier to carry this Bailey back to the storage room. But he knew that the highlight was still to come. However, he planned to show some of his cards first, just to try it out. He had developed new skills a long time ago, but had not used them yet. Soon, the next scene completely shocked the Navy, especially Aokiji. They all said it was impossible. Of course, this also included the partners in the fallen group, especially Ariel and Sid, who never thought that Kuruda had this trick. Unlike Alan and the 2 sisters, they were only slightly surprised. After all, they knew Kuruda's devil fruit, how terrible and powerful the chaos fruit was. Sid and Ariel came too early, and they didn't know that Kuruda had such abilities, and they didn't even know the devil fruit very well. However, after this battle, they would definitely learn about the devil fruit. At this time, Kuruda took action, and he was seen condensing chaos energy in one hand. Chaos extension freeze. The energy of ice was stimulated from the chaos energy. As Kuruda punched out and hit the sea surface, a large area of the surrounding seawater was soon frozen and turned into an ice surface, and the range was nearly 10,000 meters. But seeing this scene, the most unacceptable thing was the Navy. What's going on? Why does this guy also have the ability to freeze? Isn't that the freezing ability that only Admiral Aokiji has? According to the rules of the sea, isn't there only one devil fruit with the same ability? Is that guy also an ice devil fruit? It's just a lower level species of the freezing fruit. But doesn't the intelligence say that this guy's fruit is black fog or something like that? Wait a minute, his ice seems to be from the black room out, right? Oh my god, ice, black fog, what's going on? What kind of ability is he? The Navy soldiers immediately discussed this. As for Garp and the others, they basically had the same idea. But at the same time, they also didn't understand. The user of the ice fruit ability was Aokiji next to them, so why could Kuruda also use the ability of ice? Although Kuruda is also a natural devil fruit ability user, isn't he black smoke or something like that? For a moment, he was anxious and puzzled, but when Aokiji saw that Kuruda also had the ability of ice, he was naturally the most surprised and curious among the few people. Aokiji. How did he do it? I don't know, it depends on the next battle, but now it seems that the reason why this kid did this is that although it is advantageous for him, it is also advantageous for us. This guy wants his ninjas to kill him, so he made the land of ice, but our Navy soldiers are not vegetarians in terms of close combat ability. Garp shook his head first, expressing his incomprehension, and then analyzed the current situation. The other three nodded again, because Garp's analysis was not wrong. Mr. Garp. Everyone looked over and found that Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain had come. Are you two okay? This time it was T-Pig who asked. It's okay. Although we were captured, the other party still gave us 3 meals a day. Thank you for saving us. Fire Mountain said. It should be. We can't just watch our partners die. Tautu smiled. Mr. Garp, the other party is not as simple as we thought. The other party still has a trump card. But at this time, Ghost Spider suddenly said, and then he talked about the sea beast that Kuruda had shown in front of them before. Everyone suddenly became serious. You mean that the other party still has a few, Vice Admiral level sea beasts? It is estimated that they are now under the ice. Aokiji said with a serious expression. Yes, and it is estimated that the other party has some trump cards. By the way, the new woman on the other side is called Ariel, who is also a general level strongman, and even. This time it was Huo Shaoshan who spoke, and he immediately told about the previous competition between Sid and Ariel. After hearing this, everyone's faces suddenly became ugly and shocked, and then all looked at Ariel on the opposite side, especially Garp. Ariel, who didn't know how to be domineering at all, could actually suppress a great swordsman like Sid, and only relied on her body and physical skills. This is too strong. Haha, interesting, I must fight with that girl later. Kapu, who had already raised his fighting spirit, said with a smile. But soon, he couldn't laugh anymore, including the other Navy members present. Come out, soldiers of the Ghost Corps, Hulu, he took action again. With his order, the 3 tokens immediately took effect, some of the Ninja Corps soldiers who had been summoned, some small parts of the Helmet Corps and Troll Corps soldiers, as well as this new summon. On the Navy side, there were many terrified and panicked eyes. Even Kapu and his men became serious again. From the shadow of the ship of the bull and the shadow on the ship, a large number of soldiers from the 3 Ghost Corps suddenly appeared, and they appeared from the shadows one after another, and then jumped onto the ice. The Ninja Corps has 400 people, and the other 2 corps basically have 150 people, a total of 700 Ghost Corps soldiers. Oh my god, there are so many ninjas. Look at those big guys, they are so big. Quote. There are actually black warriors wearing armor all over their bodies. Is the sword in their hands also a shadow? The gray-green skin and red eyes are so scary. Oh my god, are they really human beings? No, normal creatures. Looking at the Ghost Shadow Army whose number is no less than theirs, both the original Navy and the rescued Navy on the warship discussed it directly. Ghost Spider, have you seen the samurai and the big guy of Huo Shaoshan? When did they come to the other ship? Tautu asked Huo Shaoshan and Ghost Spider behind him. I don't know, we only saw those ninjas in the past 3 days. Ghost Spider shook his head and said that he really hadn't seen those big guys and samurai. Huo Shaoshan next to him also shook his head. It seems that these are indeed not a simple humanoid race, but special creatures. After meeting face to face, Aokiji immediately judged that the ghost army in front of him could not be described as common creatures at all. Notify the soldiers to be careful when fighting later. Those ninjas are not easy to deal with. Although the other big guys and samurai are a little less in number, their direct combat effectiveness may be even greater, much more than those ninjas. Garp also said seriously. But at the same time, he also understood that Kuruda wanted to start before them. All the Navy soldiers in the combat units, except for the gunners and snipers, go to the ice and prepare for battle. Tautu immediately gave the order, and the 700 Navy soldiers on the warship immediately picked up their weapons and jumped onto the ice. As elite soldiers of the Navy, it is no problem to jump from such a small place safely. Ha ha ha, come out, my pets, Gamora, Latora, and King Air. But Kuruda, who saw this scene, was not panicked at all, and even summoned the monster directly. Chapter 51. After a long battle, Kuruda immediately continued. I know that if we want to make changes and make the lives of those at the bottom no longer so sad, we must have strength, but 2.5 years ago we were still too weak, and I didn't have such an idea at the time, but in these 2 years, I got a great opportunity. A pirate from a long time ago left a large treasure, which I got. Through this great treasure, I have achieved my current strength, and it also made me finally determined to work hard and strive for a complete change in this world. At the beginning, it was indeed like what you saw. We just eliminated some pirates, but through this period of time, I learned a lot of information. I also understand that simply eliminating pirates cannot completely solve the root of the problem. As long as the Celestial Dragon regime still exists, as long as the world government still exists, we, the lowest people, will never be able to turn over. Quote, I know that if you don't want the bad guys to cause you pain, then you have to become a stronger bad guy. I will fight violence with violence, and use more terrifying evil and darkness to crush the world today. I will suppress everything with my own hands, and those who suppress it will not even have the opportunity to oppress us, the lowest level. Ha 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 ha. At the end, after finally speaking out his purpose and his thoughts about coming to this world, Kuruda couldn't help laughing. At this time, behind him, both Sid and Ariel couldn't help laughing. As expected of the captain they favored, his thoughts were indeed advanced. They liked this style and thinking, and Kuruda really had such strength. As for Alan, the two sisters Luke and Lucy naturally smiled, and even looked at Kuruda's back with some admiration and yearning. They had known it for a long time, but now they watched and heard it again, and still felt that their former master, now the captain, was very handsome. But now on the Navy side, from Garp to any soldier in the Navy, they all looked at Kuruda with a little fear. They had only one thought in their minds, madman. This guy is a terrible madman. Even Garp, this time he looked at Kuruda, he didn't look at a junior as before, even he had a little fear, but he was not afraid of Kuruda. After all, he was just a junior, but because he saw the shadow of that man in Kuruda, really similar, even beyond. Rocks. He remembered that 38 years ago, if Roger hadn't cooperated with him, I'm afraid even he would have died in the hands of that man. Rocks, the former overlord of the sea. Now, Garp really saw the shadow of Rocks in Kuruda, and even regarded the fallen pirates as a being comparable to or even surpassing the Rocks pirates back then. After all, the other party's starting point has already surpassed the Rocks pirates. In addition, the other party's crew is basically strong, and even the black soldiers under his command are elite, and they can also command these behemoths. Such a starting point has long surpassed the Rocks pirates back then. But at the same time, he also understood that the other party was destined to stand on the opposite side of the Navy world government. So his eyes finally became serious, because he would never allow a pirate group that would really surpass the Rocks pirates in the future to appear on this sea. What this sea needs is tranquility, not excitement. At the same time, the Aokiji and his men behind him, although they did not think of the Rocks pirates, after all, they were not people of that era, but now they are also very clear that no matter the other party's ideas or strength and potential, if the fallen pirates are not eradicated today, the justice of the Navy in this sea will most likely be trampled by the other party. This is what they don't want to see, so the already very strong fighting will has been further enhanced. To be honest, in order to maintain the justice of our Navy and the peace on the sea, we must keep you here today. Garp said to Kuruda opposite with a cold face. After all, the battle is finally about to happen. On the battlefield, swords have no eyes, and coldness and cold blood are the most common fighting emotions. Unless it is a friendship of life and death that has been completely fought. Then let's see if you have this ability. Then I'll make a move first. Gamora, King Air, Latora, attack. After Kuruda smiled, he directly ordered the monsters to attack first, which was considered a greeting. Although it was called an attack, it was actually a long-range attack by the three monsters. Soon, the three monsters shouted at the same time. Gamora naturally used a super vibration wave, and King L directly after firing the crescent light bullet. Latora was relatively simple, spitting out several fireballs in succession. How can these giant beasts launch special attacks like the ability users? Seeing this scene, many people on the Navy side were shocked. Momo Rabbit, Chatten, stop it. Garp saw the attack coming and gave the order. Yes. After Momo Rabbit and Chatten nodded in agreement, they also used the moon step to jump into the air at the same time, and Momo Rabbit slashed a sword with armed color domineering. Some soil also condensed on Chatten's hands. It was obvious that he was indeed a natural earth fruit ability user. Seeing this scene, Kuruda also nodded. This guy was indeed a natural earth fruit ability user, at least the current world's Chaden was. Giant earth shield. Chaden exerted his strength, and two large thick earth walls appeared directly in front of him. Obviously, he chose to defend, but he had to admit that the earth type's defense ability was indeed very strong. Soon, the two of them, one defending and the other attacking, as the admiral candidate of the Navy, must have the strength to resolve this wave of attacks. All the attacks of the monsters were intercepted in the air. Fire. The Navy took action. Under the angry roars of Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain, the two Navy warships brought by Garp and his men this time, plus the Navy warships that were redeemed and originally belonged to Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain, a total of 4 warships, immediately opened fire, ignited the shells that had been loaded long ago, and launched a bombardment. Hundreds of guns fired at the same time, hitting the bull, those black shadow soldiers, and monsters with all their strength. Seeing the shells that were about to hit the bull and those black soldiers, many Navy soldiers, especially Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain who gave orders, were full of confidence, as if they had already seen the heavy casualties of the other side being bombarded by shells. They were so confident. This was the large-scale bombardment of their Navy's superior artillery, which often gave them a great advantage when dealing with pirates. In other words, there is no Navy that is not confident in their heavy firepower, because when this shell hits, the pirates on the opposite side will either be killed or have suffered heavy casualties, and they only need to make up for it. You know, even the current 4 emperors can only face the artillery fire of their navy very uncomfortably and suffer heavy casualties. And not only them, even Tautu and Chaden, who have landed on the deck again, and even Aokiji and Garp, all showed a trace of confidence, as if they had seen the scene of the fallen pirates on the opposite side about to suffer heavy casualties. But soon, they were dumbfounded. From the moment they saw the upcoming artillery fire, Kuruda and his group also smiled. Blue light shield, open. With Kuruda's order, the instrument placed in his bedroom immediately took effect, and the blue light shield was turned on. Soon, around the bull, even the Black Shadow Legion was protected. Under the confident smile of the Navy, which began to stiffen, the blue light shield directly blocked all the Navy's artillery attacks. All the explosions of the shells were blocked by the shield, and Kuruda and his team were completely safe. The Navy's full-strength bombardment was in vain. The confident smile on the Navy's side completely disappeared. Looking at the blue energy shield that completely blocked their own bombardment, many Navy, even Garp and others, found it unbelievable. How could it be? All our bombardment was blocked by that energy shield. Why did things develop in this direction? No, I don't believe it. What is it? Many Navy soldiers also discussed this, with doubts, but more anger and disbelief. What is the blue energy shield? Is it technology, or a person with abilities? Aokiji murmured. I don't know. This is the first time I've encountered such a situation. Tautu said with a grim look. The others basically didn't say anything, and they had similar emotions and thoughts. They had never thought that the Navy's large-scale artillery bombardment would be so easily resisted, and the other side had no casualties at all. Well, you see, the other side is also going to fire. But suddenly, Chaden saw the situation on the other side and said. After a few people looked over, they were stunned again. First of all, of course, the other side only brought out 2 cannons, and it seemed that they were the bow cannons originally placed there, but what was shining in the barrel of the cannon on the opposite side? That's right, the Navy on Kuruda's side had launched an artillery bombardment, so they naturally had to return the salute with cannons. They only needed to say one sentence. After Kuruda finished speaking, 2 energy cannons that looked like ordinary cannons began to condense energy. Soon, with 2 rumbling with a sound, what flew out was not a cannonball, but a condensed golden energy ball, and most importantly, it was very fast. Not good. As a Navy admiral, Aokiji's observation haki has naturally cultivated to a very high level. At this time, Aokiji's face changed, because he could feel that the 2 light balls flying out of the barrel were not only fast, but also very destructive. If they were not stopped, at least one battleship would be destroyed by these 2 light balls. Thinking of this, Aokiji took action directly and came into the air. Ice ball. Admiral Aokiji made a move here, which was a skill developed from his ice fruit. Soon, with a few icy breaths, the golden energy ball originally shot out from the barrel of the bull energy cannon immediately condensed into ice on the surface. But pure energy and light are not something that ice can resist. To be precise, Aokiji's attack detonated the two energy bombs. Boom! The light bomb exploded directly, but seeing the fire clouds and smoke floating all over the sky, which even seemed to cover the sky, and the strong air waves blowing directly over, both Kuruda and his side and the Navy side took a breath of cold air. Even Kuruda was the same. He didn't expect that such a small energy ball would have such a great power after the explosion. Or he underestimated these energy cannons provided by the system, which were ordinary cannons on the surface. He originally thought that they were only slightly more powerful than the Navy's cannons and much faster. Are the cannons on the bull so powerful? And they fire laser bullets? Luke said with her cherry mouth wide open. Lucy and Alan didn't say anything, because it was the first time they saw these cannons being used. They had never used them before. They had to personally deal with the small pirate groups that passed by and were hit by them. On the contrary, Sid and Ariel were fine, because their original world, or the world a little before, also had technology, and they had seen even laser weapons, and such cannons could not threaten them, so they were just a little surprised, and the shock they gave them was not as great as the previous energy shield. On the contrary, the Navy was a little panicked. Everyone looked at Aokiji, who had a rather ugly face, and returned to the deck. Garp immediately asked, "How is it? How powerful is it?" No matter the firing rate or destructive power, it is not comparable to the current guns of the Navy. Theirs is more advanced and the range is estimated to be longer. Moreover, when they fly into the air, I see that there are many such guns on both sides of their ships. Aokiji sighed. It was really the power of the energy cannon that made him, even as a Navy admiral, feel apprehensive. An energy shield and an advanced cannon. The energy shield is probably some kind of technological means, because if it is really a person with special abilities, it is impossible for it not to appear on the bow. Garp had to curse after hearing this, and at the same time he also made an analysis. Obviously, he had guessed that the energy shield was not the work of a person with special abilities. "Mr. Garp, it seems that we can only launch a full-scale offensive at present. Whether it is the soldiers or us, we must directly confront the enemy head-on, on the ice and in the air," Chadden said. Obviously, he has realized that if they really fight a regular naval battle, they can't beat the opponent with their now completely useless artillery, and they can't resist it even with the energy shield. Okay, full-scale attack. Garp also knew that the war couldn't be fought like this, and immediately agreed with Chadden's decision. Others also nodded quickly, because now there is only this way, the ability to continue fighting. All Navy listened to the order. Like the evil pirates in front of you, pick up the weapons in your hands to protect the justice on the sea. Soon, there was another pre-war mobilization, which was just chicken soup to put it bluntly. Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain had already come to the ice and gave orders. Hey, but such words are really useful to these Navy soldiers. Soon, all the Navy shouted and rushed towards the Ghost Army on the opposite side. Kill them. Fight for justice. A bunch of half-human, half-ghost things, let you see how powerful our Navy is. We will definitely win. Someone even took the lead in speaking, and I don't know if he was a fool or really stupid. Ghost Corps, attack. Kuruda sneered and confidently issued orders to the Ghost Corps. Soon, all the three major groups rushed out. The first to bear the brunt was naturally the fastest Ninja Corps, followed by the Helmeted Corps and the Troll Corps. The two soon collided. At first, it was okay. After all, the Navy had used the experience of dealing with the Ninja Corps, but the ninjas were not easy to deal with. The two sides could be said to be evenly matched. However, with the addition of the Troll Corps and the Helmeted Corps, the Navy soon fell into a disadvantage. Although the speed was a little slower, the attack and defense of these two major groups were indeed strong. There were even several battlefields where a troll punched a Navy soldier into a bloody pulp. The defense of a helmet shadow is even stronger than that of a troll. Bullets and Navy knives can't break it. After being able to easily block these attacks, he swung a sword and killed the Navy. Seeing this, Kuruda's eyes suddenly lit up and he issued an order. Ninjas, don't fight them head-on, wander around and attack, and leave the front battlefield to the helmet shadow and the troll. Although there are restrictions, with 3 tokens, he can continuously recall these 3 major regiments. But how to say that going out to fight should be more reasonable? Burst is good, but the fragile ninja regiment is better to choose guerrilla warfare. As for the frontal battle, he has seen that some navy have become afraid of the helmet shadow and the troll. After all, there are already many navy soldiers who died at the hands of these two regiments on the battlefield. After receiving the order quickly, the ninja regiment immediately cancelled the original frontal battlefield, and the battle form became wandering. For a while, the casualties on the navy side increased. Seeing the navy that was completely at a disadvantage, Garp and others on the navy side looked unhappy, especially the ghost spider on the ice behind, who had already cursed. Soon, he also rushed up, including the fire mountain next to him. The two of them attacked at the same time, and helped the navy soldiers to relieve some pressure. The two of them quickly killed a lot of soldiers from the three major regiments. Even the helmet shadows and trolls, who were very tanky in the eyes of the navy soldiers, could be easily killed by the two. Can become a senior vice admiral. Although he was beaten by Alan and the two sisters before, it was no problem to deal with these miscellaneous ghost soldiers. Monsters, attack! But Kuruda was not panicked at all and directly ordered the monsters to attack. King Air and Gamora roared and rushed towards the battlefield. Fire Mountain, Ghost Spider, you quickly stop the two giants. Seeing the pace and posture of the two giants rushing over, they almost stepped on the entire ice surface, but fortunately, the thickness and hardness of the ice made by Kuruda were perfect. Even if the two monsters jumped on the subject 3, they would not be broken, at least for a while. However, the pressure of the two monsters was too great, and the sense of oppression was strong. If they really rushed over, Garp knew that the casualties of the navy would be even more serious, so he quickly ordered Huo Shaoshan and Ghost Spider to deal with the two monsters. After receiving the order, the two used the moon step to come to the air at the same time, and then slashed at the monsters below. Gamora and King Air had received the order long ago, and knew that the two humans in front of them were their main opponents. So they gave up rushing to the battlefield and fought with them. The two monsters turned around at the same time, and then swung their tails. With their physical strength, Huo Shaoshan and Ghost Spider not only failed to cut the tails of the two monsters, but were also hit back by the huge force, as if they were hit by a train, and fell on the ice. But this is not over yet. Seeing the enemies being hit, the two monsters turned around and jumped at the same time, jumped over, and hit them with a palm. Huo Shaoshan and Ghost Spider hurriedly tried to dodge, but with two loud bangs, the two monsters directly made two big pits on the ice, but there was no hole yet, which showed how thick the ice was. Looking at the huge monsters in front of them, Ghost Spider and Huo Shaoshan also gritted their teeth. These monsters were really hard to deal with. Not only were they strong in size, but their bodies were also extremely hard. With a dang sword, they seemed to have cut the sea stone. Kai, but at this time, everyone heard a bird cry, and all looked up, and then they saw countless fireballs shot down from the sky and fell into the navy, constantly exploding on the ice, killing or burning those navy soldiers. I actually forgot there was a bird. Huo Shaoshan and Ghost Spider looked at Latora, who was constantly spitting fireballs in the sky, and they were immediately shocked. Even Garp and his men looked extremely unhappy, because in just a few seconds, the casualties caused by Latora to the navy were already a considerable number. At the same time, Kuruda and his men were staring at them with eager eyes. He didn't understand why the navy couldn't spare a single person to deal with Latora in the sky. Such a small height was nothing for them, but for many navy soldiers, even guns and cannons could not reach that far. What's more, the next moment, their faces suddenly became tense, facing a powerful enemy. Comrades, go ahead, Kuruda said with a smile, then immediately picked up the battle instrument, used the power of chaos, and flew himself towards Garp and his men. Yes, Captain, the few people who could finally fight said excitedly, and then each of them picked up their own weapons and used their own flying abilities, following behind Kuruda. We'll go too. Garp also knew that the battle had begun on this road that belonged to them. So he also rushed out. The others followed him. Chaos life-extending barrier. Kuruda took the lead and used the power of chaos again, which could derive the ability of Wanli. If the abilities he imitated before were the ice fruit and the flame fruit, then this time it was the barrier fruit. You know, this devil fruit ability user is now Luffy's loyal little fan, and even helped Luffy to form the Straw Hat Fleet. Soon, Two purple-gray glass-like barriers appeared in front of Tautu and Chadan, isolating the two. Fortunately, the two used the observation hockey in advance and felt the danger, otherwise they would have crashed into it. But Kuruda's move naturally separated the original four people of Garp. Garp and Aokiji, who were flying in the front, naturally noticed the abnormality behind them, but at this time, the enemy in front had already arrived, so they could only concentrate on meeting the enemy. Obviously, this time Kuruda and the others had discussed it before. Now Ariel and Sid were flying in the front of Kuruda's team. The two of them found Garp and Aokiji respectively. At the same time, Alan and the two sisters also attacked from both sides, bypassing this battlefield and directly finding Tautu and Chadan. Hey, looking at Garp who was already close at hand, Ariel threw a punch directly. The speed was very fast, and it seemed that the power and oppression were amazing. Garp's many years of combat experience also showed that this punch was not simple at all, so he could only use 80% of his strength and threw a punch. With a bang, the two of them collided with each other, and the shock generated by the two seemed to shatter the surrounding air. But the one who understood it best at this time was Garp. He looked at the girl in front of him with some surprise. From the outside, she should be no worse than his grandson. However, in this collision of fists, although he did not use his full strength, the other party probably did not use his full strength either. But this time, Garp knew that he was at a disadvantage, which naturally surprised Garp. When did such a female physical master appear in the East China Sea? Ice knife. Aokiji used the ability of the ice fruit to create an ice knife. With a ding-dong sound, the sound of sharp weapons colliding, Aokiji used his ice knife to block Sid's sword. But soon, Sid's weapon was attached with magic power, and the power and destructive power increased, directly shattering Aokiji's ice knife. West. Sid took advantage of the situation to chase, constantly swinging the sword and slashing, and Aokiji also kept using his fruit ability, cooperating with Domineering, and fought with Sid. Garp and Ariel also broke the deadlock. The two of them fought from the air to the ice surface with punches and kicks. After all, if Ariel did not use the six-winged purple wings, she and Garp could not be considered as people who could fly, because as mentioned before, the moon step could not be considered as flying, but just a physical method that could stay in the air. Kuruda had not taken action yet, just watching the battle around him. Although according to the plan, he, Ariel, and Sid should deal with Garp and Aokiji together. But although Sid and Ariel were still a little inferior to Garp and Aokiji in terms of hard power, they could still hold on for a while. At the same time, he could take the opportunity to observe. Take my hammer. Hearing this familiar voice, Kuruda looked and found that it was Alan who had come to the front of Chadan. The clear sky hammer directly attached the armament hockey, which simply means entanglement. Alan hit him with a hammer, and Chadan immediately formed a wall of earth in front of him again, and even used the armament hockey to form a protective wall around the wall of earth. But don't forget that Alan used the clear sky hammer, which is a divine weapon in another world. After Alan hit him with a hammer, Chadan could hold on for a while, but soon his face changed drastically, and he looked at his earth wall with horror in his eyes, which was directly broken by a hammer. But what made him even more horrified was that Alan had already condensed his fist, and the breath and color on it were nothing but the entanglement of the Overlord hockey. Oh my god, this is not easy to take, but so close, Chadan can only use the armament hockey hardening to enhance his defense. But with a bang, Chadan was directly hit by Alan's punch, at a 45-degree angle, and fell on the ice. Earth wall. Is he really the user of the earth fruit? Unfortunately, mud can't beat the earth. Through the previous move, Alan confirmed Kuruda's previous intelligence and their previous understanding that this candidate for the Admiral of the Navy is the user of the earth fruit. But unfortunately, it's just mud. How can it be compared with the Teoti who controls the power of the earth? So after sneering, Alan picked up the clear sky hammer and killed the T-pig below. Cha pig. Seeing the T-pig that had been hit on the ice and was a little injured, although Tautu usually didn't like the T-pig, this was after all a battlefield and a comrade, so he was naturally still very worried. Seeing Alan chasing him again, she was about to take action, but suddenly, she also felt the danger. Took out her famous sword, Jinbi Luo, and slashed it behind her. With a sizzling sound, Tautu saw that her sword hit two balls with black as the main body and purple and gold spikes on them. seeing these two balls, and then seeing the two girls flying over from the other side. Tautu could only say to Chadan in her heart, say sorry, after all, her current opponent is the two girls in front of her. Your opponent is us, Lucy and Luke said at the same time. After that, the two women also kicked on her own meteor ball. The huge force from it forced Tautu to retreat. After all, as a woman, she would not take the route of a power-based swordsman. But soon, Tautu shouted, and a force suddenly came out on her sword, and the sword energy was cut out. Lucy and Luke, who felt the danger, quickly dodged to both sides. Meteor shower. Meteorite. After dodging, the two women attacked at the same time. After the huge meteorite and the small but dense willow stars appeared, they immediately hit Tautu. Tautu used another sword to smash all the meteorites and meteorites. But when she put away the sword, Tautu still felt a little pain in her arm. The ability of these two people to summon meteors and meteorites is indeed very tricky. Is it really the devil fruit of meteorites and meteorites? Tautu murmured. However, seeing the two women coming with the meteors, she had to kill them again with the sword. The three beautiful women immediately started a fierce battle in the air. At the same time, Chadan crossed his hands and used the armament hockey again, but was still hit by Alan's Hooshin hammer with the domineering hockey, and flew out. I can't fight this little fat guy in physical skills. His strength and domineering attainments are far above mine. That hammer is not simple either. It is probably a hammer of the supreme great sword level. Chadan felt the pain in his arm and gritted his teeth. But at this time, his eyes were also solemn, because through the battle just now, he could feel that the little fat guy in front of him, although he was also at the level of a candidate for the general, was probably not far from the level of the general. Earth Pig. Thinking of this, Chadan felt that it was time to show his full strength, so he waved his hand, and a giant pig made of mud, to be precise, a wild boar, appeared and rushed towards Alan. Haha, although it's not a real pig, as a chef, I'm very good at cooking pork. First of all, the first step is naturally to kill the pig. Rock King Hammer. Alan laughed, and at the same time, the Hooshin hammer was suddenly covered by a lot of rocks. A rock hammer appeared in Alan's hand, and then he smashed it towards the approaching earth pig. What will happen when rocks hit the soil? Haha, it's no less than a stone hitting an egg. So the earth pig of Chadan was smashed by Alan's hammer. You are also a fruit ability user of earth attribute, right? Which one are you? Seeing that the other party could actually control rocks, and thinking of the intelligence that this guy seemed to be able to control other soils, as a natural devil fruit ability user of earth, Chadan was really curious now, what kind of devil fruit the fat man in front of him had. Rocks, sand, swamps, and soil are basically related to soil, and can be controlled. So now he asked directly. Oh, do you want to see my real power? Alan said with a malicious smile. This answer confused Chadan, because it was different from what he thought. What is real power? The ability display of natural devil fruit should not be to show what natural element you control and say what kind of fruit you are. He originally thought that Alan had said something wrong, but he also saw that malicious smile. Suddenly, he had a bad premonition or thought in his heart. Could it be that the intelligence on the Navy side was wrong? This little fat man is not a natural devil fruit ability user at all. Thinking of this, Chadan suddenly remembered that he had hit the opponent several times before, but the opponent had never used elementalization. In this case, the opponent did not want or disdain to use elementalization on himself, but simply could not. You are not a natural devil fruit ability user. Thinking of this, Chadan said directly in great surprise. Correct answer, Alan said while roaring to the sky, and at the same time he directly transformed into an orc, finally using the real ability of the gluttonous fruit. Alan's body has grown bigger. His original height of about 1.7 meters has more than doubled to almost 4 meters. Antelope horns have grown on his head, his eyes have turned red, his teeth have many sharp and ferocious fangs, his arms and thighs have become more muscular and powerful, and some khaki hair covers his whole body. This is my devil fruit, animal type, Niu fruit, fantasy beast species, ancient beast Teoti form. Alan, who has completely changed, lowered his head and smiled grimly at the dazed Chadan. Chadan is also very sluggish now. The opponent is actually a mythical beast, not a natural type. At the same time, He is also very clear about the status and strength of the mythical beast devil fruit among all devil fruits. The devil fruit of the mythical beast is even rarer than some natural types. The most important thing is the mythical beast, which basically has some special abilities, such as Kaido's Qinglong fruit, which allows Kaido to have some fire and lightning abilities. He can even control some wind. In this case, the reason why the little fat man on the opposite side can control the earth element is also brought by this mythical beast. At the same time, his face changed drastically. You know, before Alan transformed, he already had a gap with Alan. The opponent has now completely entered the beastmanization and his physical ability has been greatly improved. The current strength is estimated to be extremely close to the Admiral, and he can even fight with the Admiral. Next, he will suffer. Haha, come, let me show you my real power, the power of the Teoti fruit, and the captain's task for me is to defeat you, oh no, to get rid of you. Alan said excitedly now. Perhaps it was because from today on, he could finally use the power of the Teoti fruit openly, whether it was beast or beastman. As an animal-type fruit ability user, how could he not like these two forms? Can he use them well? So after saying that, he picked up the clear sky hammer again and killed the T-Pig. Earth Pig. Seeing Alan rushing over, the T-Pig used this trick again, and another huge mud boar rushed over. But this time, Alan didn't need to use the clear sky hammer at all. He just punched with a little armed color domineering and smashed the whole Earth Pig. Take my hammer. Finally coming to the T-Pig, Alan swung a hammer directly. Double thick earth wall. The T-Pig quickly created 2 earth walls in front of him, and at the same time, the armed color domineering was fully opened, and a comprehensive defense was carried out. With a loud bang, although Chatten blocked Alan's hammer, the power transmitted from above did not hit him, but he was also very uncomfortable. Chatten's expression has already shown a trace of bitterness. This time it is not easy to fight. He feels that the opponent's Teoti fruit is no worse than the blue dragon fruit of Kaido, the so-called king of beasts. If he sees the strongest swallowing ability of the Teoti fruit again, he will probably be even more shocked and scared. At this time, in the air, Tautu used another sword to smash a large number of meteorites and meteors. Then used the sword body to block a corner of Lucy. Sister, I'll help you. Liu Kei next to her threw it directly after getting the meteorite. Tautu quickly dodged. After all, as a swordsman, her only means of attack is the sword in her hand. Now being dragged by Lucy, she can only dodge when facing Liu Kei's attack, but in fact, she also wants to increase the distance so that she can use her big move. Hey! Tautu slashed directly, with a sword with full force and armed color domineering. She slashed at Liu Kei, who had not yet had time to retract the meteorite. The sword energy slashed by Tautu was pink, and the momentum was very huge. It looked powerful. After all, in this sea, the attack of the swordsman is always the sharpest and most ruthless. Not to mention that Tautu is a great swordsman. She can be regarded as the world's top swordsman. But soon, the next moment she was dumbfounded, her mouth slightly opened, her eyes widened, and her expression was full of disbelief. Because Liu Kei had no defense at all against the sword energy she slashed, and even the most basic domineering defense was not opened, just smiling at her. Seeing this scene, Tautu was very angry at first. Did he look down on her? After all, she is also the world's top swordsman, and a beautiful swordsman. But at the same time, she also felt a little pity in her heart. After all, she was a kind-hearted candidate for the Admiral of the Navy. But before she could say a few words, Liu Kei's figure had been annihilated in the sword energy. Soon, when the sword energy dissipated, it was cut into the ice layer below and even into the sea. But after the sword energy passed, there was no trace of Liu Kei there. Is it possible that there is not even ashes left after being cut by my sword? Tautu said directly after seeing this scene. She was still very confident about this. As a strong man at the level of the candidate Admiral of the Navy, if the other party had no ability to resist, he would really be cut by her sword, not to mention that the other party was a small girl. Golden meteorite. But suddenly, a voice came from her right. She turned her head and found that it was Lucy. She directly used her meteorite to summon a huge golden meteorite, and then smashed it towards her. Tautu could also see that this golden meteorite was completely different from the previous ones. So she slashed out 2 swords in succession to dissolve the meteorite, but at the same time, she finally showed a trace of anger in her heart, because she thought that Lucy in front of her was a cold-blooded person. After all, if it was a normal person, if her sister was gone, shouldn't she be very angry directly, and attack her like a madman, instead of being expressionless like now? Thinking of this, Tautu also asked angrily, "Why do you still have such an expression when your sister is dead?" Hee. Then let me ask you first, in the eyes of your navy, my sister and I are the meteorite and meteor fruit ability users respectively, right? Lucy said with a slight smile. Yes, that's right, Tautu said, still very angry. But soon, Tautu Rabbit realized something was wrong. What do you mean by that? So she asked immediately, because she had realized it. If she still couldn't think of it now, he shouldn't call himself a candidate admiral of the Navy. After all, to climb to this level, it requires not only strength but also wisdom. The sister named Lucy in front of the other party actually said so. It is obvious that the fruit of her and her sister is not the meteor fruit and meteorite fruit guessed by the Navy. No, if you are not what we guessed, then how did you get the ability to summon meteors? Soon, Tautu, who realized something was wrong again, asked directly. Our meteor ball is actually a special weapon. In other words, our ability to summon meteorites and meteors is the ability of the ball itself. Pick up the golden meteorite floating in her hand. What? That's the weapon ability. What kind of fruit will you and your sister eat later? Tautu finally realized something. The devil fruit ability is varied. The other party's ability to summon meteors and meteorites is not from the devil fruit, but it is certain that he is also a devil fruit ability user. Faced with the sudden disappearance of her sister, suspected death, and no life, it is obvious that the other party has some special fruit ability. Luke suddenly disappeared, not because she was destroyed by her sword energy, but because she escaped or something else. But soon, the scene that happened next shocked Tautu completely. I saw that Lucy's body suddenly radiated golden light, and then a burst of energy was generated, flying in the direction where Luke disappeared before. This energy seemed to be injected into the air directly, and it has been in the place where Luke disappeared before. Soon, witness the moment of miracle. After the energy dissipated, Luke reappeared there. She still looked lively and beautiful. How is this possible? What is going on? Tautu opened her mouth and murmured. She really couldn't understand the current scene. A little energy flew out of Lucy's body, flew to and condensed at the place where Luke disappeared, and Luke appeared. Tautu, who couldn't think of an accurate answer after thinking for a long time, felt that her brain was about to explode. Everything that happened in front of me was really amazing. Why, do you want to know the answer? Lucy said very happily. How should I put it? In fact, even Luke was the same. They were very much looking forward to the reactions of many people after hearing their fruit abilities. Finally, they didn't have to hide it. They had such great fruit abilities, so they naturally had to show off. This was also what Kuruda asked them to do before the battle. As a partner of the big bad guy, they naturally had to have the ability and strength to scare the enemy. And there will be more battles in the future. Alan and the two sisters will inevitably show their ability to compete. The Navy is not stupid, and they will definitely guess it one after another. Besides, there is still a world government with 800 years of history. Are you willing to tell me? Tautu said, very surprised at this time. Our captain said that we know that our abilities will be exposed, so we might as well say it earlier. It's like this. We are actually twin fruit ability users, actually. Lucy quickly introduced the ability of the twin fruit in detail. Mainly passive abilities. But Tautu was stunned after hearing this, and said in a daze, how can there be such a perverted devil fruit? Yes, perverted, she couldn't think of anything else except this word. Because if there is such an ability, and it has appeared in front of her, then if you want to hurt or destroy the two sisters in front of you, you must not have 0.1 seconds, hurt both of them at the same time, or kill both of them. Otherwise, as long as one person is fine, the other person can recover or revive instantly. At the same time, Tautu's face is also very ugly now, because she knows very well that in the case of the same level, hurting two general candidates at the same time, let alone her, I am afraid that even the generals and emperor-level strongmen will find it difficult. At this time, looking at the two smiling girls in front of her, After knowing their abilities, even Tautu's hand holding the sword trembled. It's really because there is no way to fight. At least there will be another general candidate level strongman to help her. At this time, on the battlefield below, after Kuruda changed the Ghost Corps fighting style, the casualty ratio between the Ghost Corps and the Navy soldiers had reached 1:3. You say that the Ghost Corps lost 1 person, but the Navy lost 3 at the same time. The more the Navy soldiers fought with the Ghost Corps, the more they trembled in their hearts, and even showed fear. After all, the Navy soldiers are humans, or some special races, are intelligent, emotional, and flesh and blood after all. But looking at the Ghost Shadow Corps, they are just dead things that can only execute orders, and are ruthless killing machines. Therefore, the more they fight, the stronger the idea in the minds of the Navy soldiers becomes. What exactly is the enemy we are fighting now? It has been so long, why is there no fear in their eyes? The red glasses are still full of cruelty and coldness. However, the most dazzling performance on this battlefield at this time is naturally the 3 monsters and the 2 vice-admirals of the Navy. Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain kept wandering, wielding swordsmanship and domineering, fighting with the 2 monsters, while Gamora and King Air only wanted to quickly get rid of the 2 ants in front of them, so the fighting method was very monster, very wild and fierce. Aang, with a roar from Gamora, he seized the opportunity and used his tail to hit Huo Shaoshan again. Huo Shaoshan, who was hit a small iceberg hard. A large amount of ice fragments and white mist were raised. Aang, Gamora seemed to see that he had hit the little ant again, and he roared excitedly. Cough cough. On the other hand, Huo Shaoshan, who was holding his body with his sword inserted into the ice, kept coughing and even coughed up blood. He was hit by a tail just now, and even with the hardening of the armed color domineering, he felt very uncomfortable. I have never fought such a frustrating battle, Huo Shaoshan said with a wry smile. His attack frequency was even higher than Gamora's. He didn't know how many swords he had swung, but the blood marks on this monster were few and far between, and the opponent was still alive and well. Ah! Suddenly a person fell beside him, and Huo Shaoshan looked and found that it was the Ghost Spider. Ghost Spider is now in a mess, and there is still some electricity on his body. It's hard for me to get close to it. This guy's lightning ability is too much. Ghost Spider also found the Fire Mountain next to him and said a little frustrated. I really don't know where that guy found such a powerful beast. Fire Mountain said with a wry smile. Kai, suddenly a bird cry came from above, and the 2 of them looked over, and their faces suddenly became ugly, because the bird actually joined their battle. They had to deal with 3 beasts. And it seemed that they could still fight. Gamora and King Air also rushed over after roaring. Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain looked at each other, and could only pick up their weapons and continue to resist desperately. Kuruda naturally saw all these battles, and he smiled when he saw the satisfactory results. So he immediately looked at the battlefield on his side, and then his eyes suddenly burst into fire. Because he suddenly saw that Sid finally attached magic to the sword again, and the purple-black energy that was like a burning flame was on the shadow sword. Sid slashed with a sword, and although he felt that this sword was not simple, it was common sense in the pirate world that only the top level of armament hockey, or the domineering hockey, could capture the flowing energy after the elementalization of the natural devil fruit. So Aokiji was not panicked at this time, and finally used elementalization for the first time in this battle. Obviously, whether it was Aokiji's own thoughts at this time or the rules that had not changed for many years in the pirate world, he thought that as long as it was not elementalization, as long as the opponent did not use armament hockey, he could not hurt him at all. Of course, the main reason was that Aokiji saw that the energy on Sid's sword was not hockey at all, so he used elementalization. But suddenly, Aokiji's face changed drastically, and his observation hockey was frantically warning, danger, absolute danger, the danger from death. Aokiji hurriedly dodged. After all, he was almost scared to death. But after all, Sid's sword was faster, or Aokiji was a little too late. Voila! Aokiji finally slashed his waist with a knife, and the red liquid was exposed. How is this possible? Feeling the pain and seeing the blood that had already flowed out, Aokiji could no longer maintain his usual expression of inaction, but now he was shocked. Because he was sure that what was wrapped around Sid's sword was not domineering at all, that dark purple flame should be the ability of the devil fruit of the man in front of him. He was very surprised at the time. He didn't expect that this person was not only knowledgeable, but also a fruit ability user. But now it doesn't seem so simple. Either it is a special ability, that dark purple flame is really special, or it is special, and can hurt several kinds of fruit abilities of elementalization. The latter is okay, he can still accept it, but if it is the latter, a new ability that can hurt elementalization, power, is enough to make the sea once again set off a huge storm. Thinking of this, Aokiji first froze his wound, which was also a preliminary relief of the pain. Then he looked at Sid and asked, "What is the dark purple flame energy on your sword?" No comment. Sid would naturally not tell anyone his trump card, but both he and Kuruda were very happy. They didn't expect that magic power could really hurt the elemental. But even so, Sid still has to continue to practice armament hockey. After all, the increase brought by armament hockey is still quite large, especially defense and attack power. Seeing Sid continuing to kill Aokiji, Kuruda Washi nodded and smiled. Obviously, he was very satisfied with the result. Soon, he looked at the battlefield on the other side, or more precisely, the battlefield below. Now, Ariel and Garp were fighting each other vigorously. But from the perspective of a bystander, Kuruda could see clearly. Obviously, as he had guessed before, in terms of physical skills, Ariel's physical strength is an ancient beast, plus years of combat experience. Ariel's moves were fierce, fast, and accurate. In this battle, Garp had been at a disadvantage many times. Ariel seized the opportunity to kick Garp in the chest. Garp immediately retreated several steps on the ice. Kuruda counted at least 5 steps. But Kuruda didn't laugh now, because he knew very well that Garp was definitely a stronger person than the average emperor. Although this veteran who lived from the old times to the present had the least decline in strength because of his old age. He could basically suppress any of the 4 emperors today, and he not only used physical skills, but also the domineering armament hockey and the top-level observation hockey. There was even a saying in the previous life that Garp had already stood at the top of the world in terms of armament hockey. Now Garp has not used hockey. Ariel can naturally suppress him with physical skills, but once he uses it, Ariel will instantly fall into disadvantage. So don't think that they have taken advantage in many places now, but Garp is the key here. If you don't get rid of this leading wolf king, it will be useless to get rid of more of the remaining little wolves. Thinking of this, Kuruda immediately thought about the next tactics. At this time, he touched the pain on his chest slightly, and there was even a small shoe print there. So when he looked up at Ariel again, his expression was filled with shock and sigh. Because he really didn't expect that such a little girl would surpass him in physical skills. He is the hero vice admiral of the Navy who is known as the strongest physical skill. She is really gifted, as top-notch as her beauty. But now such a beautiful genius girl has completely stood on the opposite side of the Navy. Thinking of this, Garp immediately said to Ariel, "Wait a minute, little girl, don't fight yet, I want to ask you a question first." "Go ahead." Hearing that he didn't fight for the time being, Ariel was also very curious and wanted to see what the old man wanted to say. Kuruda has completely stated his purpose and ideas. Even if you can win today, you will probably be enemies with half of the world in the future, even the top forces and powers in this sea. Although I don't know whether the boy's idea is right or not, he said before that he would follow the ideas and dreams of every partner. So I ask you, do you really agree with his idea? What dreams do you have? Garp said a lot of things again, but it is obvious that the last sentence is still the key point. Garp must ask clearly, but in fact, he also holds a little fluke in his heart. Maybe he can make the girl in front of him retreat and turn back. He can even pull her into the Navy. Obviously, Garp has already had sympathy for Ariel in the previous battle. Such a strong person is still so young and beautiful. If she can really join the Navy in the future, whether it is strength or influence, it will be a sure thing in the Navy, and the Navy as a whole can also be improved. However, if Kuru knew that Tapu had a little compassion in his heart, he would definitely curse. Good fellow, Garp usually looks like a good guy, but he is also an old fox in his heart. He actually poached people from me. But when he heard what he said at this time, Kuruda naturally saw everything. Although he didn't know what Garp was thinking that Ariel agreed with him so easily before, maybe he could know the answer from Garp's question. Thinking of this, he continued to act as a spectator in the air, but at the same time he also understood how to fight next. After hearing this, Ariel smiled and said in a middle school and serious way, "If I have any ideas in this world, I want to have wonderful adventures, punish evil people while traveling, and live happily." At the same time, what the captain said is right. Since he wants to change the current dark situation, I have the ability, so let me help her to create a truly beautiful world, instead of the world where the celestial dragons are rampant and pirates are ravaging the sea. So this is what you agree with my idea. Kuruda heard this and immediately understood why Ariel chose him in the first place. Ariel once saved her world and restored harmony and peace, but she also longed for a happy life. So after knowing the actual situation of the pirate world, and some of his abilities and charms, such as what he has shown in this war, Ariel completely recognized him a few days ago and now became his partner and helmsman. "Don't worry, I won't let you down," Kuruda smiled and said. His face was full of confidence. At this time, hearing what Ariel said, Garp sighed a little disappointed. I don't know whether it was because Ariel refused after all and actually admitted Kuruda's crazy idea, or because he also agreed that the current world is indeed very dark and dirty, otherwise he would not be a vice admiral now and refused to be promoted to admiral. He has been very disgusted with the celestial dragons over the years. However, no matter what, this battle must be fought. Little girl, let me show you how big the gap is between your so-called strength and the current world. For example, you don't know hockey yet. After saying the last word, Garp finally used hockey, the top-level armament hockey. Garp's fists finally became extremely black and shiny, and this is the top-level armament hockey. These fists have the 4 major abilities of armament hockey at the same time: entanglement, hardening, externalization, and internal destruction. With physical skills, Garp is called Iron Fist. Well, the power of this world is really extraordinary. I actually feel threatened. Ariel naturally saw the whole scene, and at the same time, her intuition and combat experience told her. The human old man in front of her could already pose a threat to him. Next, she must be cautious and face it with all her strength. Little girl, be careful. Garp rushed over with his fist raised. Ariel also punched with all her strength. Bang! The fist bump between the two directly produced a huge sound and air wave, but soon, Ariel's beautiful and cute face finally changed color. Through such a close head-on collision, she had realized it, but it was too late. After all, she was only close to gold, just the peak of the admiral level. And Garp, plus the most important training in the pirate world, is still domineering. This kind of power is estimated to be affected by the world, so the strength of domineering is also the key to determining whether one can become a strong person in the pirate world. Garp has cultivated his armament hockey to the top level, and has long reached the peak level of the Emperor level. What a huge difference there is between these two levels. Ariel was finally beaten back by a punch, at least 15 steps back. At the same time, she felt that her entire arm was almost useless, and it just drooped down, unable to lift it up. It seems that I underestimated this world. At the same time, she didn't expect that what Kuruda said was true. She was not at the top level in her original world. He admitted this. After all, there were gods. Before she died, Xiaobai became a god, and there was also the evil god Di. But she didn't expect that after coming to this world, she was still not at the top level. But this is fun. If you are invincible from the beginning, how can there be fun and adventure? Ariel thought of this and smiled. As for the injured arm, with her ancient beast physique, it will recover soon, and she also has the gluttony skill, and she can recover immediately by eating anything. Old man, although I don't know hockey yet, do you think I only have physical skills? Ariel said with a smile. Then she opened her cherry mouth and shot out a large purple energy beam. To be precise, this is clearly the skill that Ariel brought from her original world, her ability. Seeing that the little girl opposite actually shot out such a large energy beam from her mouth, Garp was also very surprised. What is this operation? And this energy beam is not simple, and the power is quite large. Interesting, but haven't you heard that my title is Iron Fist? But so what? After Garp laughed, he directly punched the beam with the top-level armament hockey again. The beam also stopped, and was being consumed by Garp's Iron Fist and blocked by Garp's armament hockey. Finally, Garp glared and increased his strength again, breaking Ariel's beam with one punch. Ariel was also surprised. She didn't expect that one of her most powerful destructive rays could be broken so easily. But soon, she was shocked the next moment, because Garp actually used Shave, one of the 6 styles, to stomp the ground dozens of times in a flash 0.36 seconds to generate explosive reaction force to move at high speed. From the enemy's perspective, it was like teleportation. Little girl, is this the end? Garp also punched down. Oh no. It seemed that she knew she couldn't avoid this punch, but her fighting instinct still made her take a defensive posture and close her eyes. Chaos Death Light sighed. But at this time, Kuruda took action, holding the ultimate battle instrument in his hand, and directly played a trick. Seeing that the energy slash was coming at a very fast speed and was about to arrive, Garp had to give up attacking Ariel and punch the energy slash instead. With a loud bang, Garp punched the Death Light scythe, and the energy explosion produced a huge air wave and smoke, and the small battlefield was suddenly unclear. Chaos Killing Lightning. However, Kuruda in the air had long remembered where Garp was, so he used Chaos Killing Lightning again in the ultimate battle machine. This time it was not a close combat, but a large amount of electric current was directly released and hit downwards. However, Garp also used the observation hockey to predict the danger, crossed his hands in front of his chest, and fully opened the armament hockey. He resisted the attack of lightning with all his strength. Ariel, Sid, come here quickly. Kuruda shouted to Ariel below and Sid, who was still fighting with Aokiji in the distance. Hearing this, whether it was Sid who stopped swinging his sword at Aokiji, or Ariel who was relieved to see that she was saved after the smoke cleared, they all flew over immediately. That's right, Ariel used the 6-winged purple light wings to fly over under Garp's surprised and wide-mouthed gaze. She jumped over from the bull before, not flying. Is this girl also a special race? Garp said dully, first releasing a laser from his mouth, and now growing wings like bones on his back and flying up. Garp himself is a member of the D clan, and he also knows that there are indeed many special human races in the world, such as the Ghost clan, which is very similar to humans, but has a pair of horns on its head, but is much stronger in physical strength and fitness. There are also the Lunaria clan who can control the ability of fire, but now there is only Jin, one of the 3 disasters of the current beast pirates. And there are various other races, so now Garp really doubts whether Ariel also belongs to this special human race. Thank you, Captain. Ariel expressed her gratitude for Kuruda's act of saving her before. It's okay, we are all partners. Kuruda said with a smile. Captain, why did you suddenly call us back? It won't be long before I can decide the winner. Sid said with a frown. He thought that after a while, he would have the ability and confidence to defeat Aokiji. Hearing this, Kuruda shook his head and said, don't underestimate the Admiral of the Navy. Aokiji's so-called justice is lazy justice. He probably didn't use his full strength to fight you, and your speed also played a little advantage, otherwise you would have been frozen into an ice sculpture several times. And Garp is more difficult to deal with than we thought. Let's change the combat strategy. The 3 of us will deal with the 2 of them together. I will defend, and the 2 of you will take the opportunity to attack. Kuruda stopped talking here, but Ariel and Sid had already heard the purpose of this combat strategy. After all, they had long understood Kuruda's ability, the power from the beginning of the world. Okay, the 2 agreed at the same time. This time, even Sid, who was a little dissatisfied before, agreed, because after Kuruda said that, he also found that when he fought with Aokiji before, the opponent didn't seem to use his full strength and was a little careless. At the same time, he was also very surprised that Ariel, who was much stronger than him, couldn't beat the old man. So, how strong was the old man? Sure enough, according to the original plan, the 3 of them had to fight together. On the other side, Garp also watched Aokiji come to him. Of course, he mainly looked at the wound on Aokiji's waist and many damaged places all over his body. That young swordsman is not simple, and I don't know if it's the ability of the devil fruit. He didn't use the armed color domineering, but he could hurt me who was elemental. Aokiji said with a solemn face. He still couldn't figure out why Sid could cut him with a sword just now. Hearing this, even Garp looked at him with a look of surprise, and then turned his eyes to Kuruda and the other 2 again. You'll know after the fight, let's go together. Obviously, Garp wanted to better observe the opponent's ability through the fight. Understood. The freezing time capsule. Aokiji nodded and took the lead. The freezing time capsule is Aokiji's ultimate move. Release a cold air shock wave from a long distance to quickly freeze the opponent, and everything will be frozen. When Aokiji was still a vice admiral, he used this move to freeze the former vice admiral of the Navy headquarters, Soro, from a long distance. Soon, Aokiji directly sent out a cold air shock wave towards Kuruda and the other two, but seeing this ice breath, Kuruda couldn't help laughing. You know, the devil fruit ability user he is best at dealing with now is the natural system. No, now the natural system no one can be his opponent as a fruit ability user. Even if he has Haki. Power of Chaos. This is not a move, but a ball of chaotic energy is directly condensed in the palm of his hand. Kuruda just uses this ball of energy as a shield. Use it to deal with the upcoming attack. Soon, the four people present, whether Sid and Ariel, or Garp and Aokiji, were stunned by the next scene. Ariel and Sid, is this the power of chaos? Garp and Aokiji, what the hell is this black and gray energy similar to smoke? When the freezing shock wave hit the chaotic energy, it was completely destroyed by the chaotic energy in just a moment, without even a trace of residue left. What? Garp and Aokiji were shocked by this scene and said loudly. What did they see? Especially Aokiji. His ultimate move was just a ball of energy that was slightly touched, or smoke or something, it disappeared as soon as it was touched, and his ultimate move was not useful at all. This kid is not a black flame fruit at all. Garp made a judgment immediately. Their Navy's previous guess about Kuruda's devil fruit ability was wrong. After all, black smoke can wear away the freezing ice block violent pheasant mouth. Although it is not clear what the situation is, it does not prevent Aokiji from continuing to attack and try to see what the opponent is like. Soon, he condensed ice energy in his right arm and directly shot out an ice bird. Everything he went to was frozen, like a real lifelike bird, flying towards Kuruda and the others. But Kuruda was not panicked at all. With a wave of his hand, another large ball of chaotic energy appeared, and the ice bird directly hit it. Soon, the previous scene happened again. The ice bird was just exposed to the chaotic energy. In just a moment, the ice was completely annihilated by the chaotic energy. What is going on? Aokiji said with an unbelievable expression. Often every time he attacks, many enemies, even the Emperor-level strongmen, have to spend a lot of effort to deal with his ice power. Now, in front of Kuruda, it is so fragile that it can't withstand a single blow. It's as if his ice has encountered the hottest flame in the world. But the problem is that the black smoke doesn't look like it. Ariel and Sid now have a surprised expression on their faces. Is this the power of chaos? It's really powerful. Chaos, they have also heard of this term. In their previous world, it is said to be a very ancient energy. At the same time, it is also full of mystery. Unexpectedly, the captain who summoned them now has such power. To be honest, if the occasion is not allowed, they all want to experience the power of chaos. But now, Kuruda himself is also very fortunate that he has obtained the ultimate power like the chaos fruit. Boy, what kind of power do you have? No, what kind of devil fruit did you eat? Garp said with an ugly face. Haha, this is the original power of the world, chaos. Kuruda, without intending to hide it, laughed directly. The power of chaos, what is that? Garp said with doubts. The origin of this world is endless chaos. Later, light, darkness, space, etc. were born in chaos, and then the current universe, every planet, every star, and then the world we live in, with earth and rocks, sea water, magma, ice, and then slowly derived all things, a lot of power. In other words, chaos is the original power. It gave birth to everything and can also contain and destroy everything. And this is the devil fruit I ate, the ultimate natural devil fruit chaos fruit. Any invisible force, as long as it comes into contact with chaotic energy, can be instantly annihilated. At the same time, I can also use chaotic energy to derive other invisible forces. Kuruda continued to explain, and even laughed at the end. But after he finished speaking, the other four people present were in disbelief, but after reacting. Such power, no wonder it is called the ultimate natural devil fruit. Aokiji murmured, and at the same time, he never thought that Kuruda's power was so great. The world's original power, chaos, annihilates all things, and can also generate all things. Seeing that Aokiji's two previous attacks did not work, he thought that the ice surface before, that is, now, was actually created by Kuruda. He repeated what he heard again, and his face suddenly changed. He had realized the terribleness of the chaos fruit. Just like Aokiji just said, no wonder it was called the ultimate natural devil fruit. Especially the ability to derive all things. So, fighting Kuruda in the future is equivalent to fighting a multiple devil fruit ability user. And if there are many other forces of natural elements that are considered invisible forces, then many devil fruit ability users will not be able to fight Kuruda. After all, the attacks they hit were directly annihilated by chaos. You were really lucky, you actually ate such a powerful devil fruit. Garp said with a wry smile. How great it would be if such a powerful devil fruit fell on the Navy. It can greatly hit the pirates. At the same time, he had to admit that Kuruda was really lucky. The previous cannons, those the behemoth, and those black-clad warriors, this kid must have missed a great opportunity in the past 2 years. Haha, without this opportunity, how can I have the strength to realize my idea? Kuruda laughed. Humph, your idea is too extreme, and you still have such a powerful fruit. I can't let you leave today, otherwise you will completely mess up this sea sooner or later. Kapu said angrily. If he had wanted to spare the other party and give them a little water because of their previous acquaintance. But after listening to their ideas, it is not wrong to say that they are terrorists, plus the strength and talent these people have shown. If these people were allowed to leave today, the sea would definitely be disturbed, even in the near future, so at this time, Kapu has made up his mind to keep these people. Then let's see if you have the ability to do it. And look behind you. On the ice below, the Navy soldiers you brought this time are almost gone. The 2 vice admirals and the general backup are probably not going to be able to hold on. Kuruda pointed behind them and said with a smile. Hearing this, Aokiji and Garp's faces changed. They suddenly found that the sound below seemed to be much smaller. Could it be? The two turned their heads and looked at it, and their faces changed drastically. Because at this time on the ice, the Navy soldiers who jumped off the warships to fight were really less than 200 people, just as Kuruda said. On the contrary, there were at least 500 more soldiers of the Ghost Corps fighting with them, especially those big guys and warriors, with even fewer casualties. The Navy soldiers were really about to be unable to hold on. If it lasted for a long time, they would really be wiped out. Of course, this is not the most shocking thing for them. After all, in many cases, every time the Navy goes on a mission, the casualties of soldiers like this are very large. But now such a casualty ratio still surprised them. After all, these are all elite soldiers of the Navy. In the future, they will be elite soldiers who can participate in the War of the Top War. But now what shocked them the most was the other side. Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain had been solved. The two of them were so embarrassed that they fainted on the ice. Among the 3 giant beasts, the giant bird fell on the head of the Triceratops monster. The 2 giant beasts sat down, as if waiting for orders, so they did not move. But in any case, Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain have lost their combat capabilities. Kuruda saw his motionless monsters and understood that if he did not give the next instruction, they would really stay motionless. But at the same time, Aokiji and Garp also saw that either Chatten was being beaten or Tautu was very frustrated by the beating. This is what shocked them. They don't understand why Chatten and Tautu have such a hard time fighting, even though they are both backup admirals. If Chatten and Tautu knew what the two were thinking, they would definitely say something with a sad and bitter smile. Chatten, the opponent has become a mythical beast, and the earth element ability is still better than mine. How do you want me to fight? Tautu, 2 twin sisters who are equivalent to having immortal bodies and will not be easily injured, how do you want me to fight? But no matter what, even Chatten and Tautu are not having a good time, which Aokiji and Garp can still see. In summary, the situation on the Navy side is really bad now. Mr. Garp, what should we do? Aokiji asked Garp, meaning in one sentence, should we still fight the opponent? Hearing this, Garp turned around and looked at Kuruda and the other 3 with a serious face. The opponent has at least 3 admirals. Although their individual strength is not as good as him and Aokiji, if they cooperate with each other, and Kuruda's ability is too restrained to Aokiji now. There is also a very fast swordsman with special power who can hurt the elemental Aokiji. He at least has the domineering Haki and has reached the entanglement level. Although he does not have Haki yet, his physical skills can completely suppress him. Ariel. And it takes a long time. Those giant beasts, black soldiers, and the 3 backup generals, plus the previous cannons, and he is not sure whether Kuruda has other cards. But for now, they have no chance of winning. Even if they can't beat him and Qingzi, the other party can probably escape smoothly. He doesn't believe that Kuruda didn't think of this and there is no way to escape smoothly. In this way, the defeat is already determined, so in order not to lose more soldiers, this battle can only be abandoned. Of course, the Navy is not I will admit defeat now. There will be another chance in the future. At least this time I know a lot of information and trump cards of the opponent. Thinking of this, Garp sighed, and then immediately said to Kuruda, "Boy, we admit defeat, this battle is over." Okay, the battle can be stopped. Kuruda naturally wants to see it. The opponent probably sees that they have so many trump cards now, which is a bit beyond their expected intelligence, and if it goes on like this, the Navy will suffer more casualties. And he has already got what he wants from the Navy. When the news spreads this time, he can get a lot of reputation points. Let's continue to develop first. He will stay in the East China Sea for a while. After all, he still has a lot of things to do. The opponent doesn't want to fight anymore, so it's time to end this battle. Soon, Kuruda said a good word. Garp also knew that this war was very frustrating and a cowardly battle. Another shameful war in the history of the Navy ended just like that. 700 elites, 2 vice admirals, 2 alternate admirals, 1 admiral, plus him as a hero, plus 4 top warships. According to the original estimate, they actually failed to take down a fallen pirate group that had only been established for a short time. In the future history of the Navy, what is this if not a shame? But it was also because they really didn't get good intelligence among themselves. What the hell are the other side? Ninjas, big guys, a lot of samurai, and all of them are fearless warriors. 3 giant beasts, special advanced cannons, and special energy shields. The worst crew members of the other side are the fat guy and the 2 little girls. Although they are at the level of alternate admirals, they are basically invincible at this level. Didn't you see that Chatten and Tautu were suppressed? And the devil fruit ability is not as simple as they think. A girl who suppressed him with physical skills, and if she could master Haki in the future, she could even surpass him now. She must be a girl of a special race. A great swordsman with amazing swordsmanship and extremely fast speed, who seemed to have special abilities and could hurt elemental ability users. But the most outrageous thing was the boy in front of him, who did not have the black smoke fruit at all, but the ultimate natural fruit, the chaos fruit, plus other abilities and background. This was already a powerful pirate group with no weak potential and strength. It was because they misjudged the strength of their opponents that they created the current situation, and now they had to retreat because the Navy suffered too much loss. Garp sighed slightly, as if he had aged a few years, and nodded to Aokiji, who understood and flew directly to the battlefield. Obviously, continue to announce the end of this battle and let the soldiers stop attacking. Boy, those black-clad troops under you. Garp looked at Kuruda and said, the meaning was very clear, your black-clad warriors must also stop attacking. No problem, Kuruda agreed. Then he turned his head and looked at the battlefield, saying loudly, all the Ghost Corps, retreat to your original position. Gamora, Latora, King Air, come back and smash the ice that trapped the bull. It seems that he thought of retreating. Kuruda ordered the 3 monsters to smash the ice that trapped the bull, otherwise the ship would not be able to sail out later. Soon, after the Ghost Corps received the order and Aokiji went over, the Navy also stopped attacking, and the Ghost Corps and the monsters came back soon. After returning, the Ghost Corps stayed on the spot, and the monsters began to destroy the ice that trapped the bull. The surviving Navy soldiers were full of luck and frustration. They were lucky because they finally survived. They had long seen no hope in the battle against the Ghost Corps, because the other side did not show any death in their eyes. So they didn't want to fight this battle anymore. After all, the shops on their side were too big. Now they were lucky to survive. At the same time, they were very frustrated. After all, they lost the battle and suffered such a huge loss. It would be strange if they were not frustrated. Moreover, the powerful, high-ranking and admired General Aokiji and Hero Garp seemed to have no way to deal with the opponent's top combat power. How could they not be frustrated after a complete defeat? All soldiers smash the ice that trapped the Navy warships, and we will retreat immediately. Aokiji naturally saw the frustration on the faces of these soldiers. To be honest, he felt bad, but this battle could not be fought any longer. He said immediately, representing lazy justice. The Navy soldiers who received the order could only smash the ice immediately, but their faces were still disappointed. Garp also took a last look at Kuruda and the others, shook his head, and immediately used the moon step to go towards the warship. To be honest, after hearing what Kuruda was thinking about, and thinking about the current situation of the world, he didn't understand what the other party was thinking. Whether the sea was right or wrong, he could only look at the time, and he couldn't fight this battle anymore. Not to mention that he couldn't take it, he didn't want to fight anymore. At the same time, whether it was Alan and Chatten, or Tautu and the two sisters Lucy Luke, they all stopped fighting, but the two people on the Navy side looked ugly. On the contrary, the three of them on Alan's side were smiling, just losing and winning. The expressions on both sides were different. The two sides looked at each other for the last time, and both chose to fly towards their own ships. Mr. Garp, Tautu wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Garp. Let's talk about it after we go back. I will explain it to Sengoku in person later using Den Den Mushi. Get ready to retreat. This battle cannot be fought. We have lost. Quote. Momotosugi wanted to say something, but when she thought of the two sisters' perversion, her mouth twitched and she didn't want to say anything anymore. She really didn't want to fight with the two sisters anymore. As for Aokiji and Chaton next to her, they didn't say a word either. At the same time, they also looked at Onagumo and Hirosaki, who were carried on stretchers and sent to the medical room. These two people were really miserable. They were defeated twice. And they lost to the same group of people. After a while, the Navy left. As losers, they could only retreat. Under the witness of the winners, Kuruda and others, they drove their warships like a stray dog and slowly disappeared from their sight and disappeared on the sea. Everyone take a little rest and prepare to leave. Looking at the Navy that had already left, Kuruda smiled and said, after all, they won this time. Captain, where are we going next? Lucy asked immediately. As a navigator, she knew that she would set off to a new place, so it was necessary to ask the captain where to go next. Zailuobu village, my next partner is there. Kuruda said. He believed that if the news of this incident spread, he could earn a lot of reputation points. And it was more than the previous times. The Navy could be said to have gone all out this time. The Navy heroes and admirals led the team in person, but they were still beaten back by them. And there were many things to be unveiled this time, which would definitely surprise many people. When he arrived at Zailuobu village, it was estimated that he would have a lot of reputation points by then, and he would be fully capable of summoning a partner at that time, a villain from the 10,000 worlds. After all, his primary goal now was to summon the system first. All 12 partners are summoned. After all, in this sea, the more people, the stronger the people. And whether it is him and his partners or new partners, the friendship between the partners who have come needs to be cultivated, which is the key in the future. You know, the friendship between the Straw Hat Pirates is so powerful in the future. So friendship is very important, and the reason why they want to go to Zailuobu village is, first of all, because it is a famous scene in the pirate world. After all, it is the home of the sniper King Usopp. Although he has a system and there is no check-in column, but go check it out. And whether it is Bike Kuro or the Black Cat Pirates, he must solve it. Not to mention the other pirate group, it is in his hunting concept, and for Kuro such a sinister and cunning villain. For money, Kaya's family is indeed a small rich woman, but Kuro still spent 3 years as a housekeeper crabit to gain the trust of the rich lady Kaya, trying to seize her property. In the original work, he was defeated by Luffy's rubber bell on the beach of Usopp's hometown town. Even in pirates, this is the worst and most despicable behavior. At the same time, Kuruda also felt that this man had no brains. How could he be so proud of his hidden plan? Even if the East China Sea was called the Falling Sea, if he just hunted a few pirates, wouldn't the money he collected in these 3 years be more than robbing a Kaya family? But in any case, the Black Cat Pirates and Kuro had already been on his death list, and the first purpose of this trip was to get rid of them. The second thing included a brief meeting with the future sniper King Usopp, and then summoning new partners there. Yes, Captain. After hearing the exact place name, the two sisters Lucy and Luke also went to work. As navigators, they had to confirm the direction and location immediately. Alan prepared a rich meal to celebrate our victory and our upcoming departure. Kuruda turned and smiled at Alan. Okay, I'll go now. Alan replied with a smile, then immediately picked up the clear sky hammer and walked into the cabin. He was going to prepare a delicious lunch for today's victory. I'll go back to the cabin to practice first, and call me when it's time to eat. Me too, I'm going to practice my domineering aura right away. Sid and Ariel said one after another. Through this battle, they also discovered their shortcomings, and at the same time they also understood that they were not invincible in this world. For future battles and adventures, they had to practice. After Kuruda nodded in agreement, the two also returned to the cabin and went back to the bedroom to practice. But when the two of them entered the cabin, Kuruda was also thinking that the Navy would definitely not give up so easily, and this time, it would probably attract a lot of attention. It is estimated that even some monsters in the New World will run over to them out of curiosity. After all, familiar with the original work, he knew that it would not be long before Hawkeye, the world's greatest swordsman, would appear in the East China Sea. Therefore, it is very important to quickly improve strength and keep innovating. In short, it is to find a way to increase the speed at which they can get results after training. After accumulating enough reputation points this time, let's see if we can buy some high-tech props that can speed up training or are related to time. Kuruda said immediately when he thought of this. Soon after a while, he saw that the ice next to the bowl was almost cleared by the monsters, and it was completely possible to leave. Kuruda first asked the Ghost Shadow Corps to return to the shadow for the time being, and then took back Gamora, and King Air and Latora continued to sail one day at a time. Not long after, they finally set sail again and headed towards Zailuobu village. Since Ariel went to practice, Kuruda could only temporarily serve as the helmsman. In this way, the fallen pirates once again started their new adventure. At this time, at the Navy headquarters. As the most important place on this sea, the Navy is also the holy place in the hearts of all navies, Marinavando. The so-called justice is being carried out. Now here, everything is going on in an orderly manner, and many people are running around. The most obvious thing is that senior officers lead some naval soldiers on a warship to capture or eliminate pirates, or to perform tasks. At this time, in Warring State's office, it seemed that there was nothing left at hand, and there was no information that Sengoku needed to review in a short period of time. The old man from the Navy just sat on the chair, enjoying the senbei and taking a sip of tea. Then he immediately said with satisfaction, "Haha, it's good not to have Garp here. The tea and senbei I bought myself should be enjoyed by me instead of letting the old guy cheat them away with some random excuse." When he heard this, the other person in his office, who was also the only one, immediately rolled his eyes. How come these two old guys still look like this after so many years? In private, they are just two old guys, urchin. Needless to say, the one who can have such an idea is he, who is also an old man in the Navy. She is also here. Obviously, there should be nothing wrong, so she comes here to take a rest. Unlike Akainu and Kizaru, who are also admirals, they have already gone to the New World. After all, they have to keep an eye on the actions of the four emperors and some large pirates, and even directly eliminate or arrest them. After eating another piece of senbei, Sengoku looked at the clock next to him and said a little seriously, "Counting the time, Garp and the others will probably fight against the fallen pirates today, right? We should have already fought, but I don't know, have you taken down the fallen pirates now? The opponent's strength is also not simple, and there is even a possibility of escaping." When it came to business, he immediately became serious and told his own idea. But at the same time, she had to admit that although the fallen pirates were a rookie pirate group, in terms of strength and foundation, they were no worse than some ordinary big pirates in the New World. Haha, Xiaohei, what are you worried about? Don't underestimate the sailing speed of our naval warships and the power of artillery fire. Moreover, with Aoki's ice, their ship cannot escape at all. With such a big ship, it is probably very difficult for the other party to escape. We gave up, so the battle is inevitable, but if it really comes to a fight, do you think Garp and the others won't be able to deal with those brats over there? But Sengoku quickly expressed his thoughts and guesses. He believed in the strength of their navy. Strength, and he also believes that his old friends and others will be the mainstay of the navy in the future, so it is no problem to take down a fallen pirate group. He has such confidence. Little did he know, he would soon be slapped in the face, and he would be slapped hard. I hope so, he murmured, because after watching the last video, she knew very well how terrifying the potential and strength of the fallen pirates were. If left in the future, they would definitely become a serious problem for the navy. Become an existence comparable to or even surpassing the Rock's pirates back then. Therefore, it is very important for the future of the sea and the navy to completely capture the fallen pirates. It must be taken seriously and absolutely cannot be careless. Ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling. Suddenly the phone next to Warring States started to move. It was obvious that someone was talking. Haha, Xiaohei, what did I say before? Garp came over so quickly. After all, the opponent has not grown up. Garp and the others took it down easily. Now it's fine. Everyone is happy. This is a potential threat to the navy. Gone. Warring States saw Garp's number on the phone bug and couldn't help laughing. According to the agreed time, the call came so quickly, it was obvious that the opponent had been captured. He is still the current marshal of the navy and the original wise General Sengoku. His speculation came true ahead of schedule. He is naturally very happy. Moreover, as Garp has been his old partner for many years, it is very reliable to succeed so quickly at the critical moment. Moreover, such a potential danger is gone, and the sea will not become chaotic in the future. If it becomes chaotic again, it is not what they want to see now. But even though he already knew it, now that Garp had called, he naturally wanted to hear the good news again. He also showed a smile. Obviously, she now thinks that what Sengoku said was right. After all, it is impossible to lose, but if he loses, how can he fight over so quickly? And just like what Sengoku said before, even if he wants to escape, Aokiji's freezing ability won't make it possible for him. Therefore, the fallen pirates can only be captured by them. Thinking of this, she originally had a little anxious heart, immediately ready to let go. Unfortunately, she was happy too early. Soon, Sengoku answered the Den Den Mushi and said with a smile, "Haha, how is Garp? Have you taken down the other party?" At this time, in his warship, sitting on his desk, Garp heard what Sengoku said and fell silent. After all, they lost this time. For a moment, he didn't know how to speak. After hearing it for so long, Sengoku had a bad premonition in his heart. Could it be that they didn't defeat and take down the fallen pirates at all, but the worst result? No, this is impossible, but the other party escaped. Garp, talk, what's the matter? Did you win? Did you take down the other party? Sengoku said with an ugly face, and he also saw Crane with an ugly face. Sengoku, I won't say more. I'll tell you in detail after I come back. The matter is really serious and must be told in person. At that time, you should call back Akainu and Kizaru, as well as all the current vice admirals. The fallen pirates are not as simple as we thought. We lost today, and we lost quickly and thoroughly. We also lost a lot to the opponent, at least intelligence and foundation. And the Navy suffered a huge loss this time. Nearly 500 elite soldiers, Ghost Spider and Fire Mountain are now seriously injured and in a coma, and even Little Peach Rabbit and T-Pig are also seriously injured. I am now recuperating myself. I am fine, but Aokiji was slashed by the opponent's swordsman, which is a bit serious. Now the doctors are treating the wound in the infirmary. Quote, the only thing to be thankful for is that the redeemed warships are all fine, but Sengoku, we really lost this time. Garp said a lot of words with a heavy heart, but he would wait until they go back to reveal some specific information. But now he just wants to tell Sengoku that this battle, which they all thought they could win, is really lost. The loss is very thorough and inexplicable. After listening to it, Sengoku and Crane on the other side were all in disbelief and stagnation. They lost, really lost. The Navy has such a top lineup, but still lost to the fallen pirates. The hidden background and strength of the other side are really worse and more terrible than they imagined. The two were silent for a while, and at the same time, they felt that they were really old. Zongguo took a deep breath and said in a bad mood, "Okay, let's talk about it when you come back." We all need to take a break first. You should also organize the information of this battle so that you can talk about it when the time comes. I will call Sakazuki and other vice admirals. And when do you expect to come back? Can you all attend the meeting on the day you come back? Garp thought for a while and said, the ship needs to be repaired. It was affected by the battle. At the same time, we have to stay at the nearby naval branch so that everyone can rest. It is expected to take 7 days. After listening to it, Zhongguo thought about it and felt that it really took such a long time, which was reasonable. Moreover, such a short time was not enough for this old guy to wander around in the East China Sea. So he agreed directly. Okay, see you in a few days. After saying that, Zhongguo hung up the Den Den Mushi directly, but he still hadn't recovered from the previous failure. The fallen pirates, Kuruda, we all misjudged their strength. Is the sea destined to be in chaos? Sengoku said with a helpless smile. Sengoku, don't be so discouraged. The Navy didn't really show its full strength this time. Even if the other party is talented, it will be difficult for them to grow up in a short period of time. The Navy's control over the 4 seas is not very strong, especially the East China Sea. Let's wait until they come to the second half, he said, comforting and telling the current situation. Obviously, she thought that there was no need to worry too much about the fallen pirates now, because it was impossible for them to grow so much in an instant. When the other party came to the second half and entered the Grand Line, it would not be too late to attack at that time with the strength of the Navy. That's the only way, Sengoku said. World Economic News Agency. Ha 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 ha, I knew it. Even the Navy hero led the team personally. It must be a big operation. Sure enough, it is also related to the fallen pirates. Everything they do can be written into big news. Sure enough, I was right to send a few more seagulls to keep an eye on them. At this time, sitting in his office, looking at the photos sent by his subordinates, Morgans was almost overjoyed. He knew that the previous actions of the Navy were not simple, and he knew that the fallen pirates would definitely bring him bigger news. And looking at the photos, what is this? Too shocking, too shocking. If this report is written well in the newspaper, it will definitely sell well. It may not be the most successful report he has ever sold. Behemoths, mysterious troops, super technology, energy shields and energy cannons, the 3 super fruits of the Teoti twins' chaos, especially the chaos fruit, which is actually called the ultimate natural fruit. There are also the fallen pirates, many people's wonderful performances, all of which can be written into big news. No, the newspaper can no longer be satisfied. I should write several pages and bind them together. It will take a little time. Let's talk about it in a few days. Then I will announce it well. Anyway, according to the employees over there, it seems that he was the only one at that time. Then, other newspapers should not know about this matter, so I will firmly grasp this only report this time. It won't be too late in a few days. Write this report well, ha ha ha, that's it. Obviously, after getting the intelligence from the Navy and the fallen pirates, such a big thing, such a huge news, even equivalent to a lot of small news, big news together, Morgans felt that it could be written directly into a newspaper. This time, he must write it well, he will write it himself, and sell this news, he will definitely make a lot of money. Thinking of this, Morgans got busy in the office directly. He had to sort out the photos first, take out the useful ones, set them to be a little clearer, and have better dynamics. There are many things that he has to do personally, in addition to printing and sending them out. This time the newspaper, no, it is a newspaper, he has to do it himself. But the fact is indeed so. After a few days, after his newspaper is spread out, there will be news that the Navy knows, which is clearer. After all, he is the party involved. The sea is about to face a big shock. But no matter how they are now, it will take a few days for the sea to boil completely. It does not hinder the actions of Kuruda and others now. Driving the bull, which is riding the wind and waves, looking at the blue sky and white clouds, blowing the sea breeze, and looking at the endless sea, Kuruda is now full of enjoyment. After all, as long as you are driving a boat now, and it is a big boat, you will have a desire to conquer the sea. But after a long time, you will get tired of playing, so soon, Kuruda switched to automatic driving. Anyway, the 2 sisters have already agreed on the direction and know how to control the rudder, so Kuruda gave a little instruction and walked into the cabin by himself. I want to go into the cabin, and I will leave it to you outside. Don't make the wrong direction. Kuruda said. Yes, Captain. No problem, leave it to me and my sister. The two cute girls also came to her and promised with a smile. He also trusts the two sisters very much. After all, both in the past and now, they have lived for many years. After laughing at last, Kuruda walked directly into the cabin. He first came to the restaurant, but as soon as he came in, he smelled a delicious aroma of rice, and other various flavors, but no matter what, they were all delicious food. Sure enough, when he walked into the kitchen, he found that several dishes had been prepared by Alan and placed on the table next to him. Alan was cooking now, and there was a thick pot of soup stewed next to him. There were also many ingredients next to him, including seafood and fruits, which were probably used by Alan to cook. Brother Ku, you are here. Lunch will have to wait a while, but I plan to eat outside or in the restaurant. With Alan's current strength, he can naturally sense that Kuruda is coming, and a smile suddenly appeared on his fat face. The weather outside is very good now, let's take it outside to eat. Kuruda said. Then can I have the ghost core? Alan said a little embarrassedly. Obviously, he wanted the ghost core to help. You fat man, okay, just shout casually, you can let them do anything. I have said before that they are special shadow creatures. Kuruda smiled helplessly. Is that so? That's good. Ghost core, bring out the dishes I prepared. Meanwhile, the dining tables and chairs are arranged outside, on the deck. Alan said immediately after hearing that he could give orders directly. Soon, a group of ninjas appeared, some to bring the dishes, and some to take out the chairs. It's really convenient. Not only can they fight, but they can also do these things. Captain, if we go the elite group route, will they be responsible for many trivial matters on the ship? Alan first sighed that the ghost core was really capable. Then he was thinking, and he said it directly. Kuruda would not plan to hand over many trivial matters on the ship to the ghost core in the future. What, do you really want to wipe the deck, mop the floor, sweep the floor, etc.? Kuruda joked. I don't want to, Brother Ku, I don't want to at all, but before Mr. Sid and Miss Ariel came, the four of us agreed to take turns cleaning. Now you want to hand it over to the ghost core, shouldn't you tell me? Alan now said he didn't want to. As a cook, he should cook well, not clean, unless it was his restaurant, kitchen, and tableware, and then he immediately said the key point. You are right, then tell everyone when we have dinner later. Kuruda heard Alan's opinion and nodded. Brother Ku, it's okay, I'll continue to cook. Seeing the boiling pot, Alan hurriedly said while dealing with it. Well, I have other things to do. Seeing Alan was still busy, Kuruda didn't want to be bored, and immediately he left the kitchen and dining room. Then he came to the bedroom floor. After thinking for a while, he didn't intend to disturb Ariel and Sid, so he went back to his room. He sat down at the desk and took out 3 ghost tokens. He wanted to see how many people were left in the 3 major war groups. He quickly knew the answer with the token in hand. The Ninja Corps now has 216 people. After this battle, at least half of them were lost. Kuruda had to complain that although it was the most capable war group, the death rate in such a large-scale battlefield was indeed quite high. Looking at the other 2 war groups, there were 101 people left in the Helmet Shadow Corps and 93 people in the Troll Corps. They are indeed the Ghost Shadow Corps, the 2 most powerful corps. You know, if in the Ghost Shadow Corps, the ones who can fight the Helmet Shadow, that is, the Warrior Corps, and the Trolls head-on, not counting the most special Devouring Shadow, there are only the Thorn Blade and the Mantis. Kuruda thought for a moment and realized that there shouldn't be any battles recently. This number of people should be enough. At most, he could summon another wave after the cooling time was over. He ignored the Ghost Corps for now and took the ultimate battle instrument on his back. He suddenly thought of something, that is, the ultimate battle instrument was actually a special battle instrument invented by the Rebrando people. It is said that injured monsters can be stored in it and slowly recovered. He looked at Gamora's condition and it really showed that he was recuperating and slowly recovering his strength and injuries. Thinking that King Air seemed to have suffered a lot of injuries, and that Latora had been watching the Navy for several days and had nothing to do for the time being, Kuruda directly took the 2 monsters back and let them rest well in the battle instrument. When will the system's affairs today be transmitted? He didn't need to look at other things. After all, Whether it was an energy cannon or an energy bombardment, it would automatically charge and automatically absorb the energy of heaven and earth. So now Kuruda asked the system directly when their battle today would be completely transmitted and when the reputation value would come. You know, although his reputation is still increasing, he is still using up the remaining power of the previous wave. Now, the people who bring him reputation are all passers-by, and they only provide 1 to 2 points. So he needs to ask the system now, when will the reputation brought by this battle come? Reply to the host, according to the system's estimate, it will take at least 5 days, please wait patiently. The system quickly gave a reply. Is that so? Forget it, let's talk about it later. Kuruda said after thinking about it. Because he remembered what Lucy said before, to go to such a small village, at least 8 days will be needed at their current speed. Because the weather and ocean currents must also be considered. The East China Sea is still quite large. You know, they set out from the deserted island and came to the town of Shelts. He remembered that it took at least 10 days. As for why the Navy can come so quickly, let's understand the full speed and the sloppy advance. It's not in a hurry, otherwise, if the bull speeds up at full speed, it can arrive in half a day with full firepower. But like the Straw Hat Pirates, they are not a regular pirate group. His fallen pirates are actually similar in nature, similar to Luffy. He also wants to travel around the world. Since it is a trip, it is natural to walk slowly and experience the wonderful time at sea. Isn't it good? So the speed of the bull is indeed a bit slow now. But in fact, Kuruda can't say that he will wait for this wave of reputation points to come. After this wave of reputation points comes, he will enter the West Rob village in minutes. But think about it, there is really nothing to do now. But thinking of Sid and Ariel practicing, he also practiced. It is difficult to improve the 3-color domineering, so don't rush. Now the focus is on the development of the Devil Fruit ability, according to the characteristics of the Chaos Fruit, create some new moves. In this way, on the ship of the fallen pirates, since there is no battle, they have entered a normal life. Soon, Alan had cooked lunch and immediately notified the Ghost Army Corps to notify others. Everyone quickly gathered at the table again and enjoyed the feast after the victory. There was laughter and chatter at the table. At the same time, Kuruda also talked about what he had said to Alan before, that is, some trivial matters on the bull. They all have the ability to command the Ghost Army hidden in the shadows on the ship to do things. At the same time, he also emphasized that everyone can play in their spare time, but don't forget to practice and improve their strength. Then after everyone nodded, they lived a normal life again, but they basically combined work and rest, and spent a lot of time either practicing or having fun. Of course, they did encounter some other small pirate groups or navy in the past few days, but they were also regarded as amateur activities by the fallen pirates. Or they sent one person to play with it personally. Or they just wanted to satisfy their addiction to commanding monsters, ghost troops to fight, or directly firing cannons to destroy them. Time passed like this, day after day. There was also good news, that is, Ariel and Sid finally mastered the armament hockey, and even more exaggerated, Ariel actually awakened the Conqueror hockey. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.